Chapter 368. Bring them back to the Wangfu. When Wang Ye returns, let General He come to the Wangfu to pick them up. Some people were not taught a profound lesson, and would never know their mistakes. Yes. And he answered and waved his hand. The Wangfu's bodyguards stepped forward, one person each, with a knife on their neck. They could either walk on their own or directly knock them out and take them away. Moreover, it was very clear that if they were knocked out, the integrity of their bodies would not be guaranteed. As for that little overlord, Ani personally took care of him. Following that, the road was more spectacular. But most people's reaction was, which family didn't have eyes to provoke Jin Wangya? This was an old man wanting to hang himself, disliking that his life was too long. Since Jingwan said to hand it over to Li Hongyuan to handle, naturally she wouldn't go see that little overlord. She only instructed An Yi and the others to watch over them, and not touch them for the time being. When Li Hongyuan returned from the palace, it was already afternoon. But Jingwan had just finished her lunch. Li Hongyuan was chased and intercepted by a group of old men in the palace, wanting to know more about Jiangnan. Li Hongyuan was annoyed by them, and his mood naturally became unhappy. In the end, he was completely impatient. Yu Zhongqing basically knew everything, and the matter of going out to investigate and arrest was Li Suyan's responsibility. Don't look for him again. Even if he asked again, he wouldn't say a word. It was not good for him to make a move on this group of old men. But in their family, there were some who could take a beating. With such a blatant threat, this group of old officials could only pinch their noses and not utter a word. After the wrangling, it was almost time for lunch. Lu Qingdi let Li Hongyuan accompany him to eat. Then, Lu Qingdi mentioned the matter of Gui Fei Su to Li Hongyuan. Imperial concubine Su naturally didn't dare to tell Lu Qingdi the real reason for the estrangement between mother and son. She only said that there was some misunderstanding between them. Yuaner thought that she cared more about her son, so he got angry and refused to talk to her. Imperial concubine Su was very haggard these 2 days, and her eyes were also red. It seemed that she had cried a lot. Lu Qingdi didn't think about what happened in Jiangnan, because Yu Zhongqing was there. Yu Zhongqing was his confidant. If Li Hongyuan hid something from Li Hongming, as long as he compared it with Yu Zhongqing, it would be clear. In fact, Yu Zhongqing's situation was the same as that of Li Hongyuan's Cheng Bing. So Lu Qingdi easily believed Imperial Consort Su's words. Lu Qingdi didn't know that Yu Zhongqing and Cheng Bing's things were all prepared by him beforehand. Therefore, from the beginning, Li Hongyuan had concealed part of Li Hongming's information. He was also certain that as long as he gave Imperial concubine Su a chance, she would open her mouth to plead for leniency. Everything was within his expectations. He had the advantage of time and place. When it came to implementation, people were also on his side. Lu Qingdi wanted to be the peacemaker and let the misunderstanding between mother and son be resolved. Naturally, it would be good for you, good for me, and good for everyone. She even painstakingly advised him. For so many years, his imperial concubine mother was clearly impartial. Sometimes she even doted on him a little. What did she say about being a biological son? Wasn't that purely hurting his imperial concubine mother's heart? Li Hongyuan's expression became colder and colder. It seemed that he was going to contradict Lu Qingdi again, but for some reason, he finally endured it. Finally, Imperial father, please tell my imperial concubine mother to take good care of her health. Son will pay her respects in a few days. Since you still care about your imperial concubine mother's health, why don't you go now? Once she sees you, the misunderstanding will be resolved, and she will naturally be fine. It would have been better if he didn't say it. As soon as he said it, Li Hongyuan's eyes even appeared ruthless. I won't go. Lu Qingdi naturally wasn't afraid of Li Hongyuan. On the contrary, he was a little surprised and curious at this moment. Although on the surface, there wasn't any difference when he contradicted him in the past. He felt that he was as stubborn as a calf. This was really something new to this son. So was he really angry? You must go. This is an imperial edict. Li Hongyuan's face was gloomy as he stared at Lu Qingdi. Then he picked up his chopsticks and got up to leave. There were dozens of imperial dishes on the table, but he didn't eat much. Imperial concubine Su didn't eat anything, and was resting on the couch with her eyes closed. When she heard that Li Hongyuan had come, she quickly got up with a face full of joy. When Li Hongyuan entered and was about to greet him, Imperial concubine Su had already walked up to him and grabbed his arm. Yuan, there's no need to be so polite. Yuan, are you still angry with Imperial concubine mother? She was very careful and her grip was quite strong, as if she was afraid that Li Hongyuan would turn around and leave. Li Hongyuan tried to pull his arm away but failed. He glanced at her hand. It was well maintained, and her nails were a little long. If he really used force, her nails might break. Imperial concubine Su saw this, and was happy in her heart. Her son really did care about her. You were eating with your imperial father. Why did you come over now? You must not have eaten anything. I'll have the small kitchen prepare some food. You're a big man, so it's impossible for you not to eat. Servants. Imperial mother, there's no need. How can you not eat? As the saying goes, I don't want to eat. I'm not hungry. I have no appetite. Li Hongyuan interrupted her, appearing rather impolite. Then, he saw Imperial concubine Su's somewhat startled expression, and a trace of annoyance flashed across his face. He blamed himself, but refused to apologize in a fit of pique. Imperial concubine Su laughed. If there's no need, then there's no need. You're a big man. It's fine to eat 1 or 2 meals. Li Hongyuan looked away. Imperial mother, if you have something to say, just say it. This son still has something to do. What could Li Hongyuan have to do? In Imperial concubine Su's eyes, he was still angry. Then sit down and talk. There's no need. Thinking about it, some things can be solved with just a few words. Imperial concubine Su was helpless. Some things couldn't be explained clearly, and would only make things worse. After some consideration, she mentioned Yu Zhongqing and Lu Chengdi without the slightest doubt. Yuan, you've already made arrangements? Imperial concubine Su faintly revealed some disbelief. Li Hongyuan looked at her, and then reached out. He firmly but subconsciously cautiously brushed Imperial concubine Su's hand away. His face was cold and hard. Imperial mother, you didn't think this son would do these things from the beginning, right? I don't get along with Li Hongming, and I don't get along with all my brothers. However, Li Hongming is your son. If his situation is too bad, you will definitely be worried, and you won't be able to sleep at night. After all, this isn't like those small fights in the past. Then, do you want me to just watch and do nothing? This son erased some things when I was in Jiangnan. Or do you think that with Yu Zhongqing by your side at all times, everything is transparent in his eyes? Am I that incompetent? Imperial concubine Su definitely didn't expect this layer of relationship. However, after thinking about it for a moment, she should know that it wasn't impossible. It was inevitable. Yuan had always been a filial child, but she had completely neglected him. To a certain extent, wasn't it also a kind of denial to him? No wonder he was so angry. Imperial concubine Su's heart was stifled, and she could only shake her head to deny it. No. However, there were more things that she couldn't say. Yuan, why didn't you tell Imperial mother earlier? Tell you? Why should I tell you earlier? Li Hongyuan's coldness seemed to contain a trace of stubbornness. If I told you, would you hide it from him? Then let Li Hongming be grateful to this son? There's no need. This son didn't do it for him. Then would you also thank this son for him? Imperial concubine Su seemed to understand this time. They had been at odds since they were young. Now that he suddenly did something for the other party, no matter what the consideration was, the other party would express gratitude. Then, the way they got along in the past would be broken. In this way, perhaps both parties would feel uncomfortable and simply say nothing. Anyway, as Yuan said, he didn't do it for Ming. In the end, it was because he felt uncomfortable in his heart. She understood, but she couldn't say it out loud, especially the last sentence, because he was really right. In this, it seemed that he didn't consider her feelings. As a mother, she didn't think much of it, but the truth was that as a mother, she thanked her adopted son for her son. Yuan thought of everything and didn't want to see such a scene, so he chose not to say anything. In the end, she was the one who opened her mouth to plead first, creating a gap between mother and son. When she pleaded for mercy, The pain in her son's heart was probably countless times worse than expected. Imperial concubine Sue's body and lips trembled, but she couldn't say anything, because no matter what, she had already done the wrong thing. And Yuaner's heart was already hurt. If she said too much, it might cause him to rebel in his heart and think that she was really biased. Li Hongyuan lowered his head. Mother, this son won't be entering the palace to pay respects for a while. This son needs to calm down. Please forgive this son. This son will take his leave. Imperial concubine Su could only watch Li Hongyuan's back as he left, seemingly lonely and sad. She wanted to dissolve the estrangement but failed. Instead, the estrangement deepened. Imperial concubine Su hadn't eaten or slept well in the past 2 or 3 days. At this moment, she felt her blood rush up and her head spin. Her body went limp, and she fell to the ground. Imperial concubine. Her trusted maid hurried forward. Someone quickly call the imperial physician. What imperial physician? Don't call him. Help this concubine up. I'll be fine after lying on the bed for a while. If she fell ill when her son came, wouldn't her son be accused of being unfilial? Although her son's reputation wasn't good, he shouldn't be accused of being unfilial, especially since she was the one who brought it upon him. The maid didn't dare to disobey her, and hurriedly helped her up. Imperial concubine, how about this servant go and ask the prince to come back? You're not allowed to go. He's already sad. Seeing this concubine like this, he should blame himself and feel guilty. This concubine was originally in the wrong this time. Provincial governor, don't make it public. When the imperial physician checks my pulse in 2 days, just have him secretly prescribe some medicine. Imperial concubine Su rubbed her temples, revealing her weakness and exhaustion. Imperial concubine Su was both physically and mentally exhausted. It wasn't only because of Li Hongyuan's matter, but also because Jingwan's disheveled appearance the day before yesterday, as well as her capable aunt being beaten to death. The imperial concubines who came to her palace to comfort her came in droves. Some praised her openly, while others sneered and ridiculed her. Of course, none of them really dared to point their fingers at her face. In reality, this wasn't a big deal to her. If she couldn't even endure this, how could she have a foothold in the harem? Imperial concubine Su refused to call for an imperial physician, so she could only deal with the health pills she usually ate. After leaving the Jade Essence Palace, he actually heard the slight chaos, but what did that have to do with him? He looked back, then brushed the place where imperial concubine Su had grabbed, as if brushing away something dirty. Then he directly left the palace. On the way back to the main courtyard, Li Hongyuan already knew that Jingwan had been bumped into. Not only had the horse been startled, the carriage had almost flipped over. Although the guards outside reacted quickly and managed to control the carriage, Jingwan had still been injured. In the blink of an eye, Li Hongyuan's body was shrouded in hostility. Go and receive your punishment. 50 lashes each. Yes, and he replied. He didn't dare, and wouldn't have any meaning. Has the He family's people already arrived at the residence? Yes, but Wang Fei said to wait for Wang Ye to come back to deal with it, so she didn't let the He family's people in. Although the He family's people temporarily left, they should have left people near the residence. Seeing that master has returned, they should come again soon. When this prince entered the palace, I met with General He. Go break his arms and legs. If the He family's people come again, block them for this prince. Yes. Jingwan was a little surprised to see Li Hongyuan at this time. Because she was alone, she ate relatively quickly. The people in the palace should still be eating at this time. Jingwan didn't think too much about it. She just ordered the servants to prepare some food. It didn't need to be too sumptuous, but it had to be fast. Li Hongyuan didn't have an appetite and didn't want to eat. I'm sorry, but I'm really hungry now. While waiting for the food, Li Hongyuan hugged Jingwan and kissed her. Jingwan didn't push him away. After being married for more than half a year, she guessed that this man was not only crazy, but also had skin thirst. The longer they were separated, the more clingy he became. However, this kind of situation only happened to her. Moreover, this man really was a bit of a neat freak, because he wanted to settle accounts with her. In order to settle accounts as soon as possible, Jingwan did some research on his past. The best person to find out was naturally Eunuch Mu. Therefore, when Eunuch Mu came back to report the news, Jingwan asked him, in order to create a strong and loyal image for the male master in front of the female master, Eunuch Mu naturally told her everything he knew. Li Hongyuan didn't like being served. He basically did the daily bathing and dressing himself. Occasionally, he would ask someone to wipe his back. The only thing he needed others to take care of was his hair. From a long time ago, it was Eunuch Mu who did this. The palace maids and maids couldn't get close to him at all. Every time Eunuch Mu did it, he had to wash himself clean first. If he was dissatisfied with anything, he would be in trouble. It was true that Li Hongyuan doted on them for 7 days. And it was also true that many women loved Li Hongyuan, so much that they fell deeply in love with him. However, Wang Yi did not even touch a single one of them. Those who lasted for 7 days were all relatively special women. They were basically acting in concert with Li Hongyuan to make outsiders believe that Li Hongyuan was indeed lustful. At the same time, it also balanced the women who stayed by Li Hongyuan's side for 1 or 2 days, so that no one would suspect that Li Hongyuan did not touch any of them. According to Eunuch Mu, the prince disliked those women because they were dirty. When they were close to him, their breaths were dirty. After knowing this, Jingwan touched her chin. She really couldn't believe it. Her husband's virginity might have been ended by her. Although she didn't directly ask Eunuch Mu such a question, Jingwan could almost come to this conclusion. Eunuch Mu was 7 or 8 years older than Li Hongyuan. He had been with Li Hongyuan since he was 5 or 6 years old. No one knew more about Li Hongyuan's private affairs than he did. It was no wonder that Jingwan was so surprised. Putting aside Li Hongyuan's skill in flirting, and the way he did it in bed at the beginning, he was clearly a master among masters. He didn't seem like someone who had never tasted the taste of sex before. However, from Muan's point of view, it seemed that he didn't need to tell such a lie. After all, no matter how dissolute and absurd a man was before marriage, as long as he didn't have anyone except his wife by his side after marriage, he could be regarded as a first-class man in a woman's eyes. Except for her, no one would feel a little uncomfortable. Before the princess got married, she would specially send a maid to test the marriage. Eunuch Mu must have the same idea. There was no need to make up a lie that Li Hongyuan had never touched a woman. So someone was just gifted. He was so fierce and energetic in bed. In fact, it was because he had been accumulating it for a long time. Jingwan patted her head. She didn't pay attention to it and got it dirty. However, Jingwan was really happy about this. She didn't even notice that the little discomfort buried deep in her heart had disappeared without a trace. Therefore, when Li Hongyuan was intimate with her at this moment, she just let him be. Even when the maid came in and out, she didn't push him away. Li Hongyuan's eyes flashed slightly. What he once understood was from the words of the shadow guards, and what he knew was from her appearance. Now he understood her heart more and more. Now, he was almost certain that something must have happened during the time he was not around. It was obviously a good thing for him. After that, during the meal, Jingwan kept putting food into his bowl with a smile. Sometimes she even fed him directly. Li Hongyuan directly held her in his arms. Jingwan didn't object and fed him naturally. Li Hongyuan thought that she would be willing to feed him mouth to mouth. He glanced at the maid, who lowered her head, and wished she could shrink her head into her stomach. Li Hongyuan didn't do that in the end. Perhaps from now on, he didn't need to deliberately train her. Wanwan's awareness would be deeply ingrained in her bones. Li Hongyuan's stomach was full, and his heart was satisfied. Jingwan wanted to take a nap, and Li Hongyuan also accompanied her. When she fell asleep, he got up and called Nanny Gong and Eunuch Mu. After asking, he got the answer. Li Hongyuan couldn't help laughing. How could this be described as a vinegar jar? It was clearly a sea of vinegar. She was so happy just because he hadn't touched other women before. Her possessiveness wanted the unity of body and mind. She wanted everything. If one was missing, she would probably abandon it like a worn-out shoe. In this life, Li Hongyuan had kept his chastity not only because he knew that Jingwan cared about this aspect. In fact, in his previous life, his desires had been relatively indifferent. Because he was a prince, he was like most men. He had never cared about other women's feelings. let alone serve them wholeheartedly. As long as he was satisfied, it was fine. In reality, other than certain places that they had to touch, including his princess consort, it seemed that they didn't have much intimate contact with him. After a certain amount of time, they would naturally separate. There was not a single exception. Because he was gifted, every time he slept with them, they were very unwilling to get close to him. They were even a little afraid because he was too ruthless and brought them only pain and no pleasure. They suffered every time anyone would be unhappy. They were unhappy, and Li Hongyuan was naturally disdainful. They just wanted a child and tried their best to seduce him. Haha, what kind of person did they think Li Hongyuan was? Therefore, those women were no different from the cold palace. Later, when he became the emperor, he was first in the chaos of war. After the country stabilized, his health gradually deteriorated. The number of times he entered the harem could be counted on one's fingers. Moreover, he felt bored in bed. Thinking about the only night with Jingwan, he could have some fun. In the last few years, he didn't enter the harem at all. As for the empress, who the hell was that? Except for consort Xian, who was in charge of the harem, there was no other woman above the rank of consort. The court officials knew about his health condition, and he was known as a tyrant. There were only a few women in his harem, and no one dared to say a word. The influence of that time seemed to be carried over to this life, and some situations naturally became more and more serious. In the end, it wasn't that other women might have traumatized him, but that Jingwan left a deep impression in his heart. A man's passion and desire were separate. When it came to him, they couldn't be separated. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654071. HTML. Please click here to report. Registration is not required. We will handle it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com. Mobile version reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 369. The He family's people came? Li Hongyuan lazily asked. Yes. According to Master's instructions, they blocked the door. However, knowing that Master is in the Fu, they didn't intend to leave. Because of Jingwan, Li Hongyuan's mood was not bad. However, he also saw the bruise on Jingwan's arm. That was the person he held at the apex of his heart. Someone actually hurt her. It was absolutely unforgivable. Bring them to the martial arts arena. As he spoke, Li Hongyuan stood up. Although it wasn't a good time to move his muscles and bones. But for a living king of hell who would do whatever he wanted to do, did he need to pick a time to do something? Naturally, he didn't need to. Inside the martial arts arena, there were weapon racks on both sides. Although they might not be used, there were all kinds of weapons. Li Hongyuan took the spear that he was most comfortable with. The spear was more than 1 zhang long. The body of the spear was pitch black and carved with exquisite patterns. The surface was faintly glowing. The spearhead was bright, and the cold light was threatening. With a flick of his hand, he grabbed the end of the spear and skillfully shook it. The entire body of the spear shook and made a buzzing sound. After that, he executed a set of spear techniques. In his hands for a long time, it was as if he was using his arms and fingers. As the saying goes, the body is like a swimming dragon, graceful like a startled swan. When the imperial bodyguards brought the little tyrant he and his bodyguards over, Li Hongyuan's spear techniques were only half completed. Not to mention the little tyrant whose hands and feet were broken. The others were all people who had truly fought on the battlefield. At this time, when they saw Li Hongyuan, they couldn't help but be aghast. It must be known that Jin Qinhuang's illustrious reputation was something they had all heard of. However, seeing the other party in this manner, some of the rumors were instantly shattered. At the very least, this man absolutely couldn't be useless. That cold murderous aura, every move, every style, all revealed a murderous intent. This wasn't a prince who lived like a prince, but a killing god who walked down from the battlefield. At this moment, their eyes were all on Li Hongyuan. They forgot about the little Gongzi that they were supposed to protect. and let him lie on the ground like soft mud. After a set of spear techniques was completed, the spear was stuck on the ground with a bang. It felt as if the ground was about to split open. Li Hongyuan's figure was like the gun in his hand, a pole. 2 people in a team. Come and fight with this prince. If you win, this prince will consider meeting the He family. If you lose, Li Hongyuan's eyes fell on little gangster He. He suddenly curled his lips into a smile. It was supposed to be an extremely seductive smile, but at this moment, it made people shudder. It won't be as simple as breaking your arms and legs. After all, little gangster He only had his joints dislocated, and his bones weren't really hurt. These soldiers who were temporarily acting as guards wanted to save him without hesitation at that time. But when they realized this, they restrained themselves. However, at this moment, they thought of what the people in the prince's mansion said at that time. You should be glad that the master doesn't have the time to deal with you now. If the master did it himself, even if you didn't die, you would be half dead. Now they believed it without any hesitation. Li Hongyuan was standing in the middle of the field, so they didn't have a choice. Therefore, the 8 people looked at each other, and quickly divided into 4 groups. They didn't dare to be arrogant and say things like one-on-one. They also didn't feel that Jin Qinhuang was looking down on them. There were some things that people with discerning eyes could see. Moreover, they were able to mix in from new recruits to veterans. They often had a beast-like intuition that allowed them to survive on the battlefield again and again. The strength of the enemy, they could basically sense it at first glance. Choose your own weapon. Seeing that you are guarding Qi Yuan's territory, this prince will remind you. If you don't show your ability, you will die in vain. In the capital, this prince has killed a few people. Killing is killing. There's no difference whether it's a noble or a lowly one. That's right, these people were loyal to the country, so Li Hongyuan slightly respected them. The 2 people's hearts trembled. They didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest. They chose their weapons and directly attacked. They were boorish people, and didn't pay attention to any rules. Because on the battlefield, no one would talk about rules with you. Moreover, these people, although they had been trained, but more of their killing skills were trained on the battlefield. They didn't talk about any moves. They only had one purpose, kill, kill, kill. In reality, ever since Li Hongyuan came back, he really didn't have a chance to use his real strength. He usually practiced his moves. Even when he looked for Fu Yenting to feed his moves, he still had a sense of propriety. Even last year at White Dragon Temple, because he wanted to put on a trick of injuring himself to gain the enemy's confidence, in front of Jingwan, he only used about half of his strength. Also, when he encountered an assassination on the way to the Summer Palace, he still mostly vented his emotions. But now his blood was really boiling. Boiling, of course, he didn't show any mercy. Moreover, he spent a lot of time on the battlefield in his previous life. Even the emperor had to take the lead, because at that time, Li Hongyuan was truly crazy and fearless. The people he was facing were indeed people who had been on the battlefield and killed many enemies. However, ever since the He family took over the northeast of Qi Yuan, there had never been a large-scale war. Compared to what Li Hongyuan had seen and experienced, it was a far cry from what he had seen and experienced. Moreover, he knew all kinds of ways to use it on the battlefield. Li Hongyuan used his real strength, and the aura on his body became more and more obvious. Then not long after, blood could be seen. Throat, heart, eyes, and even lower body. In Li Hongyuan's eyes, the experienced people seemed to be full of openings. There was no way to avoid or escape. Fortunately, Li Hongyuan always stopped at the last moment, and didn't cause any serious damage to them. This was enough to show that he had super strong control of his strength. The more he was like this, the more terrifying it was. This meant that he really could easily control the life and death of his opponents. And Yi and the others knew that their master was very strong, but they didn't know how strong he was. Now that they saw it, it was probably beyond their expectations. However, with just these 2 people, it was impossible for their master to use his full strength. They could feel that Li Hongyuan's current state would be very disappointing if he continued. If he was disappointed, he might really kill them. In fact, as Li Hongyuan said, it was nothing if he killed 2 people. However, these people couldn't be killed, because if they were killed, it would probably cause the entire Northeast Army of 100,000 people to not hide it from their master or the imperial family. Thinking about it, they knew that they were risking their lives at the border. In the end, their brothers who went through fire and water didn't die on the battlefield, but were inexplicably killed by the Wangya of the country they were loyal to. How could they not be angry and sullen? At that time, it was hard to say what the consequences would be. And he thought for a moment. 2 more of you go. Making a decision without authorization. And he was also prepared to receive punishment later. And he could see it clearly. And so could these soldiers. Without hesitation, they directly chose their weapons and charged forward. They originally thought that it might be the result of 1 + 1 = 2. But in fact, it was far greater than 2. As the direct opponent, Li Hongyuan could naturally clearly feel it, and quickly discovered the reason. It wasn't that the 2 people who came later were stronger, but because the 4 people formed a small formation, with both offense and defense. Thus, how could the power not increase? This kind of unforeseen event made an E and the others a little worried. Their standing posture involuntarily changed, ready to attack at any time. However, they quickly discovered that their worries were unnecessary. Although it was a formation, Li Hongyuan immediately saw that this small formation had been simplified and couldn't display its full power. Moreover, there were also flaws. If his guess wasn't wrong, the complete formation should be 8 people, perhaps just adding the 4 outside the field. Li Hongyuan's offensive was slightly restrained. It looked like he was being suppressed. However, he seized the flaw and destroyed the formation in one fell swoop. The original power plummeted. Perhaps because they were caught off guard, the effect of 1 + 1 was less than 2. As a result, the field returned to the initial situation. The 4 people had more and more wounds on their bodies. Perhaps it was about time. Li Hongyuan used his long spear to send them flying one after another. The 4 people who smashed hard on the ground only felt their chests tremble slightly and coughed up blood slightly. However, they didn't have any resentment. Instead, they looked at Li Hongyuan with excitement and reverence. Their thoughts were the simplest, and that was to worship the strong. Li Hongyuan's aura didn't diminish, again. When the remaining 4 people heard this, they immediately went on stage. All of them were somewhat excited. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/665407 HTML chapter error. Click here to report, registration free. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicken.com mobile version reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 370. The people of the Wangfu were in awe of Li Hongyuan, but these soldiers were purely in reverence. It was mainly because of the first impression and the degree of understanding of the real Li Hongyuan. Don't look at how these soldiers were like now. If they really worked for him like an E and the others, it wouldn't be long before they would be like them. Thinking about it this way, they were a bit envious of these soldiers. As the saying goes, ignorance is bliss. These words weren't false at all. The last 4, as expected, had the same ending as the first 4. However, the light in these people's eyes was even more intense. After watching the battle, Ani was thoughtful. He seemed to understand a little bit of his master's purpose for suddenly doing this. Beating around the bush to deal with people had never been their master's style. His muscles and bones were completely relaxed. Li Hongyuan's body heated up, and there was an indescribable carefree feeling. He casually threw the spear in his hand, and it steadily landed on the weapon rack. Then he walked towards the little gangster, he who was lying on the ground. Only then did the few soldiers restrain their exposed emotions, and somewhat nervously looked over. They had lost, and the one who suffered was the little Gongzi. But with their current situation, even if they were to face Jin Qinhuang alone, they would not be able to stop him. Not to mention that there were still a bunch of guards standing guard. The group of imperial guards of the Wangfu also looked over, but they wouldn't have known if they didn't see. Now that they saw it, The expression on their faces cracked a bit. Actually, they had already discovered before that this boy was actually very unyielding. When his hands and feet were broken, he only frowned at that time. Just based on this point, they still respected him as a man. He was worthy of being born in a family of generals. If it was those dandy gongzi in the capital, they would be howling like pigs being slaughtered. Only this one, his mother, that fanatical expression was even more intense than those soldiers. Li Hongyuan's feet subtly paused. Although others didn't see it, his following kicks were not the least bit careless. The first kick landed on the shoulder, and the little gangster, he who was lying on the ground, was flipped half a circle. The angle also shifted. After that, Li Hongyuan took 2 steps forward with a feeling of taking a leisurely stroll. The next kick landed on the side of the ribs, making people seem to hear the sound of bones cracking. Taking a leisurely stroll or whatever, it was definitely an illusion. After several kicks, little gangster, he spat out blood as expected. It was obvious that his internal organs were injured. However, he only let out 2 muffled groans. He didn't cry or beg for mercy. Little gangster, he was definitely a tough guy. In the end, Li Hongyuan stepped on little Tyrant He's chest, but he didn't use much strength. He squatted down, moved his toes, and touched little Tyrant He's chin. Then he met little Tyrant He's burning eyes. Alright, this description was a bit strange, but it was the truth. Although little Tyrant He's injuries were not light, and his expression was slightly distorted, he was still filled with passion. If Jingwan was here, she would probably give him a reasonable title, which was a fanboy, a brainless fanboy. Li Hongyuan didn't have any other emotions except for the first time. It wasn't that he hadn't seen little Tyrant He's condition in other people before. For example, Wan Fangfei in the past, and some of the girls who were favored by Shengdao. However, in comparison, it wasn't so obvious. Of course, Li Hongyuan also knew that the meaning behind this was different. Speaking of little gangster, Li Hongyuan was very familiar with him. Of course, that was in his previous life. According to the time, he had to wait for a few more years. When he went on expeditions, little gangster, he was one of his valiant generals. Little gangster, his name was Sea of Consciousness. He was the youngest son of He Jinwei, the general who was currently guarding the northeast border. He had 4 older brothers, 2 of whom were direct descendants, and 2 of whom were concubines. Of the 4 brothers, only 2 were left. The He family was different from other families. Because they were guarding the border, they suffered a lot of losses. Therefore, among the brothers, no matter if they were direct descendants or concubines, they had a good relationship. The He family was actually quite decent. The He family's daughters-in-law didn't seem to have a high status, but most of them were women who weren't inferior to men. Although they didn't go to the battlefield with their husbands, they had at least guarded a city. However, among the He family's descendants, Sea of Consciousness was considered a weirdo. Perhaps it was because his closest brother was almost 10 years older than him. So in comparison, he might be a bit more indulgent. However, the He family didn't have the mindset of spoiling their children. Their upbringing could be said to be very strict, whether in terms of thinking or body. Because they were strict when they were young, when they grew up, they would have a better chance of surviving on the battlefield. The reason why Sea of Consciousness was called a weirdo was because his physical fitness was very good. At the same age, he had to at least triple the training to achieve the same effect. When he wasn't even 10 years old, he could already beat his older brother. However, this kid's thoughts were very rebellious. He didn't commit all kinds of crimes, but he was very arrogant and liked to cause trouble. At home, he was punished, beaten, locked, his legs were broken, and his ribs were broken, but it didn't have any effect at all. It seemed that he was born with a hard bone. In the Northeast, it became a ghost's worry. When Sea of Consciousness was 12 years old, he led a group of people to sneak out of the city. Once he went out, it was close to 10 days. His family was crazy with anxiety. In the end, they didn't even have any hope. In the end, he came back alive and well. He led people to play a sneak attack, and really destroyed a small tribe. Of course, in the end, there was no reward. He was ruthlessly beaten up until his skin was torn, and his flesh was torn. He only got out of bed after 10 days and half a month. After that, the people at home strictly guarded against him. At any time, they sent a few valiant soldiers to follow him. General He's soldiers took turns to follow him. As a result, these people had a deep impression of this young master. Sea of Consciousness learned many things from them. Because he was too energetic, when he was 13 years old, he was simply brought to the battlefield. Although he was a bit young, the whole family didn't object. In reality, Sea of Consciousness seemed to be born to fight. On the battlefield, he could be said to be invincible. Moreover, he was a complete madman. The soldiers below actually admired him very much. Occasionally, they would also be very respectful. The reason why they were respectful was because this respect usually didn't last for more than 3 seconds. In the end, he was a very troublesome person. Sea of Consciousness was now 16 years old. A year ago, he defeated his father. Half a year ago, he defeated the He family's most powerful elder brother. On this trip back to the capital, only General He Jinwei's eldest son remained in the northeastern border city. The rest of He Jinwei's branch had all returned to the capital. Speaking of which, Sea of Consciousness was what He Jinwei was most worried about. He was afraid that he would cause trouble again. The capital wasn't like the border city. If he caused trouble in the border city, for the sake of the He family, basically no one would care too much. In the capital, if he accidentally offended the influential officials, the He family might not be able to settle it. Because the He family guarded the border, it could be said that they worked hard and contributed a lot. His Majesty treated them well, and they also had some responsibilities. However, as long as one was smart, they should know that in this kind of situation, they needed to be more careful. If anything happened, they would be ruthlessly attacked. But they didn't think that something would still happen. Moreover, it was to hit a big iron plate. When the He family found out that the rascal rode a horse on the street and collided with Jin Qinhuang's carriage, not only did he not apologize, but he also dared to act violently and was arrested by the people of Jin Qinhuang Fu. They were angry and anxious, causing the family to be thrown off their feet. Before returning to the capital, they specially warned him, especially Jin Qinhuang, to never, ever offend him. They even enlarged the logo of Jin Qinhuang Fu a lot, wishing that they could directly stuff it into his brain. After entering the capital, they also restrained him, who knew that because they had just entered the capital, there were many things to do, and they were exceptionally busy. Going out would cause a big disaster. Although they quickly found out that Jin Qinhuang wasn't in the carriage, Jin Qinhuang Fei was. The more noble a woman's status was, the more delicate she was in their eyes. She couldn't be touched. If something bad happened to her, it was simply asking for a person's life. However, there was one more thing to be thankful for. That rascal didn't act impulsively. Perhaps he realized that something was wrong, or perhaps he was persuaded. Otherwise, based on his martial strength, if he let loose and fought, it would be like fighting on the battlefield. It would be strange if he didn't die. Li Hongyuan looked at He Jihai. In his previous life, he was familiar with him after he ascended the throne. At that time, he was the only adult male left in the He family. Including He Jinwei, they all died 2 months later. And the day they died, it just so happened to be New Year's Eve. At that time, He Jihai didn't have this unbridled brashness. His entire person was gloomy, just like a walking murder weapon. When he followed him to battle, he witnessed He Jihai's ruthlessness and extraordinary skills in killing the enemy. For many years after the war, He Jihai could be said to be the stabilizing force of Qi Yuan. Just his name alone was enough to make the enemy's expression change. Li Hongyuan's current martial arts skills, to a certain extent, originated from He Jihai. However, He Jihai wasn't suitable to be a commander-in-chief of the entire army. He was only suitable to be a general who charged and broke through the enemy lines. Moreover, he was the kind of general who needed someone to assist him and mobilize the troops for him. He was only responsible for charging and killing. It wasn't that He Jihai was a boorish man who didn't understand the art of war and strategy. On the contrary, He Jihai's brain was actually quite powerful. Although he wasn't that righteous and liked to take the unconventional path, he was very good at mobilizing troops and dispatching troops. Winning with fewer troops was simply his specialty. It was just that he had lost all his family members, and he himself had lost the ability to reproduce due to his serious injuries. Therefore, the only thing he had left was revenge. After the battle, he was like a sharp weapon without thinking. He only listened to Li Hongyuan's orders and commands. He fought so hard, and was so fierce only because he didn't care about life and death. And when the battle was over, nothing could be seen from his appearance. But inside, he was already a useless person. At that time, Li Hongyuan saw it all. Therefore, when he had the chance to start over, he cherished talent, and wanted to protect He Jihai, and make him a real commander-in-chief. He wanted to make the enemy not only change their countenance, but also make the enemy's army tremble in fear. In this way, he was bound to protect the He family. This was also the reason why the He family returned to the capital this time. Of course, Li Hongyuan didn't bring them back to abandon the northeast border and ignore it. If there was no He family to guard it, the battle after more than 2 months would only be more tragic. He Jinwei was bound to go back. Li Hongyuan would remind him to strengthen the defense, and secretly prepare some military supplies for him. In case there was a contingency, it would be good to keep the He family alive. Li Hongyuan also knew what He Jihai was like now, but when he saw him in person, he was still a little surprised. What was even more unexpected was that this brat had offended his wife the moment he returned to the capital, causing her to be injured. As such, no matter how much potential and talent he had, Li Hongyuan had to teach him a lesson, and then properly train him. If he did not achieve his goal, Li Hongyuan would definitely personally cripple him. "Your Highness, you're very powerful. Why don't you fight with this commoner?" Before Li Hongyuan could speak, He Jihai said enthusiastically and expectantly. So this brainless fanboy of his was a little different. He Jihai's military merits were actually quite high, but his father had never asked for a title for him. These military merits were distributed to other people. He Jihai didn't care. Because of this, the capital basically didn't know that there was such a fierce person in the He family. However, when he said this, those soldiers couldn't bear to look directly at him. However, it was completely expected. They were all too clear about this young master's temperament. How much effort would it take for this prince to take your life now? Your Highness won't take this commoner's life. What, this prince has no power or influence, so I'm afraid of your He family? Li Hongyuan didn't get angry. No, it has nothing to do with the He family. It's just that intuition tells this commoner that your Highness won't do that. Li Hongyuan had seen He Jihai's intuition before. In his previous life, he even relied on his intuition to save a battle. Do you know why you're in Jinqin Wangfu? I know. This commoner can apologize to Wangfei Nyang, kowtow and admit his wrongs. As long as I can fight with your Highness, this commoner will do anything. He was still enthusiastic. Therefore He Jihai sold himself so easily. So much so that for many years in the future, when he recalled today, he couldn't help but want to bang his head against the wall. He was really too stupid. How could this master's heart be so black? It was better to quickly scram far away. Running around the borders for a lifetime, he didn't want to face Li Hongyuan. Li Hongyuan stood up. Take him away. He didn't know what Li Hongyuan was going to do, so naturally, he could only obediently be taken away. Ani, let Gongjiu go take a look. Just let this prince see if Gongjiu's medicine can soften people's bones. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654077. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Chapter 371. After Li Hongyuan finished dealing with He Jihai, he went back to accompany his wife to sleep. As for whether He Jihai would cry for his father and mother in pain, that was none of his business. Perhaps it was because of the familiar person, the familiar smell. When Li Hongyuan approached, Jingwan unconsciously rubbed into his arms. Her head rested on his arm, and her arm rested on his chest. She also sleep-talked, calling out, "Ah Yuan." Li Hongyuan chuckled and moved his body to let Jingwan sleep more comfortably. He touched her face and kissed her. At least at this moment, Li Hongyuan's heart was abnormally satisfied. The person at the top of his heart, who had become obsessed with obsession, was his legitimate wife. At this moment, she was peacefully lying in his arms, which was enough to soothe all his negative emotions. And in order to maintain everything now, and even let Jingwan be more unrestrained, he must hold the power in his hands, and no one can say anything. Jingwan woke up, and before she opened her eyes, she rubbed Li Hongyuan's shoulder and whispered twice, "Are you on? An? Are you on? An? Are you on?" Li Hongyuan turned his head to look at her and smiled silently. "And I'm here." "Are you on? Are you on? Are you on?" Jingwan called out again, and again without saying anything else. Li Hongyuan also responded patiently. She didn't know how many times she called out, but Jingwan's heart seemed to finally be satisfied. Then she remembered the things she should have asked the day before, such as the matter of Prince Zhongfu catching fire. Later, I'll have people organize all the big and small things in the capital in the past 6 months. When the time comes, you can take your time to look at it. When Li Hongyuan said this, in a place where Jingwan couldn't see, his eyes flickered. Speaking of which, although he deliberately let people go easy on him, someone really could do it, which was indeed amazing. Jingwan responded, "How do you plan to deal with the He family's matter?" Li Hongyuan didn't hide anything, and briefly told her what happened before. Although Jingwan didn't know how powerful Gongjiu's medicine would be, she was quite optimistic about him. Well, there was a condition called hypersensitivity to pain, which would increase the pain by countless times. A small cut or hit could make people feel excruciating pain. Maybe Gongjiu had such a medicine. If so, she would light 32 candles for He Jiu's little gangster. I heard that in the past years, General He came back with a few bodyguards and didn't have any family members. This year, is there a bad rumor? Or is there something wrong with the He family? Or is someone plotting something again? Wan, you're overthinking. It's not like that. Although the He family has worked hard and made great contributions, the Northeast is relatively stable, and there are no major wars. Naturally, the He family's influence is limited, and it's far from the capital. Similarly, the He family guards the Northeast, and basically has no contact with the capital. No matter how fierce the fight for the throne is, it has nothing to do with them. No one from the He family is in the capital, so the sky is high and the earth is far away. Therefore, the He family could be considered another kind of neutral party. The reason why so many people from the He family came back this time is because there's something strange going on at the northeast border. There might be a major war before spring next year. It's not appropriate for the entire He family to guard the northeast. If something unexpected happens, some people should be avoided as much as possible. So Yuan, you're the one who facilitated this? Li Hongyuan's voice was muffled as he responded. Jingwan chuckled. I know that Yuan is very resourceful, so he must have received some accurate information. However, the imperial court might not know about it. Even if they knew, they probably wouldn't care. After all, the Northeast has been relatively stable for many years. Why would there be a major war suddenly? If there really is a war, or if there are heavy casualties, they might even push the blame on the He family. There's rarely a time when there's an adequate supply of provisions. The He family's Northeast army is no exception. If there's a major war, even an iron army will be like a sick cat without the support of provisions. Since Yuan can't bear to do that, he must have prepared more than just a few members of the He family. She knew what he was secretly preparing. Wan knows me well. Don't flatter me. Li Hongyuan chuckled. I'm telling the truth. Moreover, in her previous life, the imperial court really did push all the blame on the He family. They said that they didn't supervise the situation properly. If He Jihai wasn't the only one left in the He family, they might have even accused them of treason. Although the He family suffered heavy casualties and was almost wiped out, the enemy didn't fare any better. Otherwise, Qi Yuan wouldn't have been able to clean up the mess so easily. Perhaps a large piece of land in the northeast of Qi Yuan would have fallen into the enemy's hands. After getting up, she was in high spirits. As for little brat He, well, He wasn't a bad person in nature. It's about time to send them back. Since Jingwan said so, and Li Hongyuan didn't have any other instructions, the matter was naturally settled. However, the He family didn't manage to enter Jinqin Wangfu. Even He Zhenwei didn't manage to see Li Hongyuan. The whole family was exceptionally anxious, afraid that He Zhihai would really die in Jinqin Wangfu. Although reason told them that no matter how lawless Jin Qinhuang was, he wouldn't go to this extent. However, it was possible to turn He Zhihai into a useless person. He Zhihai was only 16 years old, and was already the #1 general in the Northeast Army. Now that he had become a useless person, it was too painful. Since they couldn't see him, the He family could only go back first. Although the He family didn't want to make the matter known to everyone, but in the entire capital, the people who should know already knew. Because it was a special period, no one stood out to blame Li Hongyuan with the He family's previous righteous indignation. They said that little Gongzi he was in the wrong first, and should be punished according to law. Jin Qinhuang shouldn't abuse his power, and so on. Not to mention that Jin Qinhuang couldn't be provoked. This was an occasional case. If any action was out of line, Lu Qingdi, who was still in a fit of anger, might label them as forming a clique. Let's wait for one more night. If I still don't see him tomorrow, I will directly enter the palace to see His Majesty. He Zhenwei's resolute face was surrounded by deep worry at this time. This evil creature, when he comes back this time, I will break his legs and make sure he can't get out of bed before he returns to the border town. Seeing His Majesty, if possible, the He family didn't want to take this step. To what extent Lu Qingdi pampered Jin Qinhuang, they especially understood. They were a family of generals, but it didn't mean that they were all boorish people who didn't understand the ways of the world. That night, the He family didn't sleep well. After breakfast the next day, He Zhenwei decided to enter the palace. But before entering the palace, he still made a trip to Jinqin Wangfu to see if there could be a turn for the better. The result of this trip was somewhat unexpected. From afar, he saw the gate of Jinqin Wangfu open, and a group of people came out. Who else could it be if it wasn't He Zhihai and his 8 guards? He Zhenwei hurriedly sped up. When he got closer, the gate of Jinqin Wangfu closed again. The other 8 people were still okay. Their clothes were a bit tattered, and there were bloodstains on them, but their spirits looked good. Only He Zhihai was supported by people and looked half dead and dying. He Zhenwei's heart thumped. He had never seen his son like this. Even when his legs were broken and his ribs were broken, he was still able to toss and turn with full energy. He Zhenwei's body trembled and his lips trembled, but he didn't say anything. Let's talk when we get back to the Fu quickly. Being on the battlefield all year round, this military doctor definitely couldn't be lacking. This time, the most powerful military doctor in the Northeast Army also came back. A large group of people surrounded him, anxiously waiting for the diagnosis results. The 8 military men looked at each other in dismay, that they actually wanted to say little Gongzi was actually fine. But, forget it. Now they couldn't get a word in edgewise. After the military doctor's diagnosis, his expression was a bit strange, but the He family became even more restless because of him. The military doctor slightly paused. Does little Gongzi's body have any special feeling right now? It's all in those places. He Zhihai was weak. Pain, it hurts little Yi to death. His mother, for the whole afternoon and the whole night, he had never been in so much pain. The He family members looked at each other in dismay, that this evil creature was the kind of person whose bones were dislocated, and immediately climbed up a tree to steal birds. The kind of person who climbed up the house to tear the tiles. He actually cried out in pain. Other than that, the military doctor continued to ask. He Zhihai rolled his eyes, understanding the military doctor's meaning. Little Yi is very good. I'm not crippled or disabled, old man, can't you diagnose? The military doctor touched his grizzled beard, the expression on his face relaxing. It seems that little Gongzi is indeed fine. He turned around and faced the He family members. Little Gongzi's body does have some injuries, but he has already taken medicine, and the effect is obvious. This old man will prescribe some more medicine, and it won't take long for him to recover. The He family members heaved a huge sigh of relief. What exactly happened? He Jinwei asked. Only then did the guard open his mouth and explain the whole matter. The He family members' expressions were very strange. So, little brother is in so much pain that he's hovering between life and death. He has been howling for too long, and now he has no strength at all. Fourth brother, shut up. He Jihai flew into a rage out of humiliation. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66548082. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Bikugo mobile reading website mbicken.com. Chapter 372. He Junwei stepped forward and sat beside He Jihai's bed. Without holding back, he patted He Jihai's chest. He Jihai shuddered and howled miserably. The sudden sound startled everyone in the room. Then, they looked at He Jihai with a bit of disbelief and some worry. He Jihai's face turned green. Did they think he was willing? His mother, it was really too painful. He couldn't bear it at all. It should be that the effect of the medicine hasn't completely disappeared. Once the effect is gone, it won't be like this. The military doctor said with a smile. Knowing what was going on, the He family looked at He Jihai as if they were looking at a rare treasure. If he really howled like this for the entire afternoon and night, to still have this spirit, it should be considered not bad. Moreover, his throat hasn't gone hoarse. He Jihai looked at this group of family members who rejoiced in his misfortune. He was too lazy to even roll his eyes, and didn't have the mind to explain. At this moment, it was indeed very painful, but it was basically within the range of tolerance. In any case, from small to large, each and every one of them were waiting for him to suffer, wanting to see him make a fool of himself. They all wanted him to be taught a lesson and behave himself. He Junwei also touched the short beard on his chin. If there's a chance, ask Jin Qinwang what medicine was used. The effect is so good. Even if I'm thick-skinned, I'll ask for it. The effect was good. Clearly there were two meanings. Not only was the effect of the medicine good, it was also better to deal with He Jihai. And indeed, I've never seen Xiao Hai so well behaved. He Jihai's grandmother, old Madam He, nodded in agreement. He Jihai had never been a person who could hide his emotions. Therefore everything was written on his face. At this moment his face was like a color palette, exceptionally splendid. After relaxing a little, it was time for the proper business. What did father say to you before entering the capital that you treat father's words as wind? He Junwei's face was exceptionally stern. He Jihai didn't say a word. The capital isn't like the border cities. I know that you're messing around, but you know what you're doing. You won't go overboard. However, in the capital, a small matter can cost someone's life and implicate the entire family. Why can't you behave? Do you have to throw the entire family in for you to be happy? Dad, I was wrong. I won't cause trouble in the future. He Jihai lowered his eyelids and said in a low voice. You have to keep your word. His spiritual C did not say that he was grounded, because he knew that if this kid really wanted to go out, he would have a way to get out. There was simply no way to lock him up. It was better to let him walk through the door, and let someone follow him. That would be of some use. He Jihai's eyes were filled with excitement. He indeed would not go out to cause trouble again because his next goal was very clear. To find Jin Qinwang to fight. He Junwei's eyelids twitched. The more he looked, the more he felt that it was impossible for this kid to be so honest. There must be something he didn't know. He prepared to ask the people who had followed this evil creature out. At this moment, those bodyguards had gone to change their clothes. The wounds on their bodies also needed to be examined. Originally, the soldiers wanted to downplay the part where they exchanged blows with Li Hongyuan. Now that they were faced with General He's cold and stern face, all of them were like quails and confessed everything. He Jinwei only felt his temples throbbing. He was very clear what kind of moral character his son had. When they were in the border city, he had not been lenient when he exchanged blows with his father. Now, he had the guts to set his eyes on a Qin Wang, and it was the kind that could not be provoked. Originally, when he had offended Jin Qin Wang Fei, the other party had just tidied him up and did not lose an arm or a leg. He should be extremely thankful. But this matter was not over yet. He was still thinking about how to deal with the aftermath. Sure enough, he should directly break that evil creature's legs so that he could not get out of bed. That would also save him a lot of worry and trouble. He Jinwei could almost imagine, wherever Jin Qinwang went, that evil creature would block him. That scene was simply unbearable to look at. After all, he had done this kind of thing many times in the northeast border city. It was only until those people were all knocked down that it gradually stopped. Fortunately, those soldiers were still broad-minded and did not argue with that boy. After all, to be flipped over by a young teenager in public was a very shameful matter. They even said that the younger generation would surpass the older generation. Even if those people were indignant, they would not do anything to that evil creature on account of his face. Jin Qinwang was different. If he really wanted to block the door, he had many guards around him. One word from him could make that evil creature suffer. After all, 2 fists were no match for 4 hands. If Jin Qinwang was really angry and let people completely cripple him, he, as the father, could only pinch his nose and swallow his bitterness. There was no place to judge, and he did not have the face to do so. He Jinwei wiped his face. There were several times when he had the impulse to beat that evil creature. When that evil creature exchanged blows, he was not lenient. Usually, if he really broke his legs, he would not dare to fight back. But in the end, he did not have the heart to be associated with such an evil creature. Great General, he felt that his lifespan could be shortened by 10 or 20 years. Forget it. First, apologizing to Jin Qinwang was the proper thing to do. It was just that he was a military general. In the entire capital, he did not have any close in-laws. At most, he only had distant relatives. In the past few years, he would come back with his personal guards. He would not hold a banquet, nor would he pay a visit. This time, because his family had returned, there was a possibility that he would stay in the capital in the future. A banquet was a must. Before that, it would not be good for him to pay a visit to anyone. Even if it was to apologize, it would not be good. This was in consideration of both sides. After thinking about it, Great General, he decided to start with Lu Qingdi. He explained the cause and effect clearly, and let Lu Qingdi help to build a bridge. This could also show his loyalty. Before entering the palace, Great General, he still went to see He Jihai. The father and son talked about something behind closed doors. Whether it was effective or not, he did not know for the time being. He Jinwei was very skilled in war. His EQ was also very high. After briefly explaining the matter, he began to pour out his grievances. That evil creature was such a disgrace. How could he not be worry-free? How could he give people a headache? But in the end, this evil creature is this official's son. I can't really ignore him. Lu Qingdi was not only greatly moved, he could empathize with him. He also began to pour out his grievances. He also had an evil creature son. Beloved official, you have been far away in the border city all year round. You don't know. The living Hell King's fighting strength was much more valiant than little gangster he. When Great General he heard this, he sighed endlessly. So what? His son could still live well. It was really a miracle. With such a comparison, he actually felt that his son was actually quite obedient. Just think, if his son was really like Jin Qinwang, he reckoned that he would have long been angered to death. After all, no matter how he was, he could not be like Lu Qingdi, who could suppress everything. Zhen's evil creature these 2 years, he has restrained himself a lot. Although he still occasionally angers Zhen, contradicts Zhen, but those messy things have decreased. Beloved official, you don't need to take it to heart. After all, it was my son who bumped into the carriage and frightened Jin Qin Wang Fei. I should apologize to Wang Fei Nyang. Lu Qingdi's finger tapped on the table. Zhen is very clear about Old Sixth's temperament. If something makes him unhappy, he won't let today's matter pass until tomorrow. As long as he stops, this matter is basically over, and he won't remember it. Since he released your family's boy, it means that Old Sixth's wife is fine. If beloved official really feels apologetic, Just let your mother make a trip to Jin Qin Fu, and it will be fine. Hearing Lu Qingdi's words, great general, he was relieved. When He Zhenwei returned home and said this, old Madam He and others were also relieved. They as military officers were poor. They couldn't take out much gold, silver and jewels. But in the northeast, it didn't mean that there were no good things. Precious fur, precious herbs, it was more abundant than other places. No matter what, they were the local tyrant of the border town. Even if they didn't take the people's wealth, they had accumulated a lot of these things. Handing over the visiting card, they also got the other party's reply. The next day, when old Madam He was preparing to go out, He Zhihai jumped out again. He firmly expressed that he also wanted to go to Jin Qin Fu. He Zhenwei's veins popped out on his forehead. Everyone said that no one knows a son better than his father. Correspondingly, no one knows a father better than his son. How could He Zhihai not know what his father meant? Pa, it's me who bumped into Jin Qin Fei's carriage. I should apologize. Moreover, my injury is not completely healed. How can I fight with Jin Qin? I know that there won't be a good result. If I go up and get beaten up, wouldn't it delay the time to have a good fight? I'm not that stupid. He Zhenwei was irritated by that have a good fight. His hand was itchy, and he wanted to slap someone. Alright, go. I don't allow you to go. Maybe you will secretly climb over the wall of Jin Qin Fu. Old Madam He said helplessly. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/66544084. HTML chapter error. Please click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.bicon.com. Bikago mobile reading website, mbicon.com. Chapter 373. Old Madam, He keeps He high by her side to prevent him from making trouble when she doesn't pay attention to him. Today He Zhihai was well behaved. He did whatever his grandmother asked him to do. Perhaps because there was another man, Li Hongyuan accompanied her. When they met, old Madam He didn't hesitate to apologize. She didn't beat around the bush. She was straightforward. She was different from other women. Li Hongyuan played the role of a guest perfectly. Although Jingwan was in a high position, she respected those elders who didn't flaunt their seniority. Because she understood old Madam He, she had a good impression of her. She was wise, sensible and righteous. In short, she deserved to be admired. Old Madam He could see who was the leader. She was a bit surprised, but she didn't ask anything. Old Madam He glanced at him and asked her son to apologize. It's okay if she didn't look at him. She looked at him and couldn't help but twitch her eyes. Her eyes were full of excitement. If she didn't know, she would think that she saw a beautiful woman and fell in love with her at first sight. Then she looked at him again. He was indeed beautiful, a top-notch beauty. But he was a real man, a real handsome man. Li Hongyuan was so handsome, but he didn't look feminine at all. When he was young, it was hard to distinguish whether he was a man or a woman. But since Li Hongyuan was 10 years old, he had a subtle and cruel influence. Those who used to make fun of him didn't have a good ending. Jingwan also saw He Zhihai's expression, but she didn't show any special expression. He was just a crazy fan. It's not like she didn't see it before. Well, because the person who was being fangirled was her husband, Jingwan still felt a little strange. Jingwan slightly tilted her head and glanced at Li Hongyuan. A certain someone was unperturbed, as if he didn't notice. Old Madam He felt itchy. If it wasn't because of the occasion, she would beat him up. Xiao Hai, hurry up and apologize to the princess consort. He Zhihai came back to his senses. He was a little bully and a scoundrel, but he also inherited the natural qualities of a man from a general's family. His apology to Jingwan was quite straightforward and sincere. Jingwan accepted it, but she didn't say anything more. The He family style was there. She believed that they had taught He Zhihai a lot, and he was still like a little tyrant. She couldn't just casually say a few words to him. However, as long as he wasn't really stubborn, she believed that after this battle, He would at least be restrained in the capital. Old madam, he doesn't stay for long. After all, it's a special time. Even with Lu Chengdi's imperial decree, she still needs to be cautious. Jingwan asked Mama Gong to send him out. Little gangster he, on the other hand, kept looking back as if he was reluctant to part with him. Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan with a teasing expression. Wang Ye's charm is limitless. Even men will bend down for you, unable to extricate themselves. Whether other people bend or not, it has nothing to do with Ben Wang. Ben Wang only needs to bend down for Wan Wan. Is this he family's little Gongzi counted as one of Wang Ye's flowers and plants? Do you want Xie Shen to cut him off? Jingwan won't let go. Her smile didn't change. Jin Qinhuang used to be both men and women, so he didn't mind Jingwan's teasing. That's not necessary. As a husband, occasionally I should help my wife solve her worries. Wan Wan, don't worry. No one can dream of your husband. The husband and wife teased each other for a while. After the joke was over, Jingwan asked Li Hongyuan about He Zhihai's matter. He's just obsessed with martial arts. He's excited to see you, Li Hongyuan replied lazily. Jingwan nodded. She understood immediately. Let's not talk about this matter for now. It's been 2 or 3 days. How is Wan Wan reflecting on her mistake? Oh, this. Almost done. I'm preparing to clean it up. Li Hongyuan nodded. This husband will wait and see. Speaking of which, to clean up a certain someone's peach blossom, some preparations were still needed. Jingwan ordered for our Jin Qinhuang Fu's steward to see her. Jin Qinhuang Fei smilingly expressed that she needed to know all the details of the beauties in her husband's other courtyard. How big and small they were, how they came, what their identities were, etc. Mu Gonggong inexplicably trembled. That, although master absolutely didn't do anything wrong to Wang Fei, but the existence of so many beauties was a fact. Wang Fei's smile didn't decrease, but it made people feel that her mood was quite subtle. It didn't seem like she was angry, but it definitely couldn't be said that she was happy. Was it really that after being with Wang Ye for a long time, Wang Fei also became terrifying? It was terrifying to the point that it was a bit different. When a person's joy and anger were completely expressed on their face, it was actually easier to bear. But a gentle fear was what people couldn't bear, right? Fortunately, after Mu Gonggong returned from the Luo family and met with an accident on the road, he had already made preparations. Now whatever Wang Fei wanted, he could immediately take it out and organize it into a book. He was simply too considerate. Well done, Jingwan praised. Wang Fei, you flatter me. It's this servant's duty. Jingwan smiled and nodded. Muan has always been loyal and devoted to Wang Ye. Since Muan is so clear about these things, it must have been through your hands. You've worked hard. Muan was still complacent before, but now he had a bitter expression. That it might not be right to do things too perfectly. Now he was simply lifting a stone to smash his own feet. In Wang Fei's eyes, he must have become the ultimate lackey, the culprit who searched for beauties for Wang Ye. Such a person, in the eyes of the female master, should be chopped into pieces. Muan, this Wang Fei remembers your loyalty. Continue to work hard. Jingwan's smile didn't change. Muan wailed in his heart. Wang Fei, please forget. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654086. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is exempted. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikago mobile reading website. bicken.com. Chapter 374. In the following 2 to 3 days, the latest rumor in the capital was that Jin Qinhuang Fei was extremely jealous. The beauties in Jin Qinhuang's courtyard were either sent away, sold, or beaten to death by her. Not a single one was left. Even the courtyard where the beauties were kept was completely demolished. The things inside were all dismantled and sold. Not a single one was left. All of this was enough to show how much Jin Qinhuang Fei hated the existence of those who had no one. Previously, There was a rumor that Jin Qin Fei was jealous and could not tolerate people. Moreover, she was vicious and merciless. At that time, there might have been some doubts, but this time, it was really big. It was said that the beauties who were sent away were not dressed properly. It was said that the beauties who were sold were all tattooed with the word sin. It was said that the most miserable were the beauties who were beaten to death, crying and begging for mercy. They were so petty and pitiful that they could not beg Jin Qin Fei to take pity on them. Not only were they beaten until their flesh was lacerated, they finally breathed their last. The beatings did not stop, and they were turned into a pile of meat paste. The blood seeped into the ground and could not be washed away. It was not so bad, but Jin Qin Fei actually sat on one side, eating while observing the punishment. That scene made one's hair stand up in anger. Even if it was the notorious Jin Qin compared to Jin Qin Fei, it seemed that he had to retreat. Although Jin Qin name, as the living king of hell, was an indiscriminate and comprehensive suppression, Jin Qin Fei only targeted the flowers and plants around Jin Qin Fei. They could not be mentioned in the same breath. Jin Qin Fei was not to the extent of making everyone fear her. However, it seemed that the world's attacks on her were even more aggressive. There were even people who requested the emperor to divorce such an evil woman, such a person without virtue, not to mention being a daughter-in-law of the emperor. Even ordinary families would divorce her and lock her up in the family temple. Those were all light punishments. The matter was far from over. As Jingwan's grandfather, Luo Rongyan, the Minister of Personnel, was also implicated. Logically speaking, Luo Rongyan should be the one to be directly attacked. However, Luo Rongyan was far from being qualified to sit in the imperial court. No matter how he was impeached, it wouldn't have much of an impact in the end. Thus, no one bothered to do that useless work. Ever since Luo Peishan became the minister of the Ministry of Personnel, he had been stubborn. No matter who tried to rope him in, he had offended everyone. At this time, naturally, no one would mention the Minister of Personnel's impartiality. However, even though he was impeached, Luo Shangshu appeared to be quite calm. According to him, his obedient granddaughter was filial to her elders before she got married. She loved her brothers and sisters, and was gentle and chaste. She was a good girl. As the saying goes, there are two sides of the same coin. If his granddaughter really did something wrong, it would be nothing more than that. His meaning could not be more obvious. If his young lady was not well, then it meant that she had changed places. It was a problem of water and soil. Everything was fine before she got married. If there was a problem after she got married, then it must be Jin Qin problem. Furthermore, it was the imperial family's problem. It was them who led his young lady astray. How many people's faces turned green, including Lu Qingdi's face? It was a little. Well, actually Lu Qingdi also knew what was going on. Because this matter had not happened yet, he already knew. It was because his family's evil spawn threw a tantrum in front of him in advance. This implied that there was something wrong with those women. Those brothers of his could not bear to see him doing well. They even brought up the matter in Jiangnan. For example, the 3 times he was plotted against, they were all related to them. He clearly did not fight for anything and did not want anything. But there were still people who were unwilling to let him go. Thus, it was better to let his mother take him with her when she died. In front of Lu Qingdi, Li Hongyuan took everything on himself in advance. The only one who could still pose a threat to Jingwan was Lu Qingdi. Lu Qingdi's weakness was grasped by Li Hongyuan. Once it involved his true love, his IQ dropped. In addition, there was some specious evidence in Li Hongyuan's hands. So he did not think about anything else. Everything was for his son. Therefore, after Jingwan did those things, Lu Qingdi's imagination filled in that his son was borrowing his daughter-in-law's hand to get rid of those unstable factors. The beauties in the other courtyard, and so on were just a cover. The real people to get rid of were actually in the Wangfu. His daughter-in-law took the blame for his son. He had no choice but to be kind and really divorce her. Speaking of which, the imperial family did not seem to only divorce a woman. There was only the word sudden death. Moreover, with his son's quota of cursing his wife, if this daughter-in-law was gone, he might be a widower for life. Not only that, thinking about the abundant national treasury and the bulging private purse. That was also old Sixth's daughter-in-law's infamy. With all these, Lu Qingdi felt a little embarrassed when facing Luo Shangshu. Then, Lu Qingdi dismissed the memorial and said that he knew his daughter-in-law. She was not a malicious person. It must be those lowly people who angered her. What's more, what she said about being beaten to death was purely false. As the daughter-in-law of the imperial family, she represented the imperial family's face. Such wanton slander was slandering the imperial family. Whoever released the message, if he found out, he would definitely punish them severely. Then, the reward flowed like water into Jin Qinhuang Fu, and was given to Jin Qinhuang Fei. Jingwan looked at the things that filled the courtyard, and was speechless. What was that? Many of these things were embezzled by her from Jiangnan. As the monarch of a country, was he really so embarrassed? Moreover, she brought back tens of millions for him. These things were not even worth 100,000. So stingy. Waving her hand, she put them into the treasury. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/66540088. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. No registration required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book. www.bicken.com. Bikaga mobile reading website. bicken.com. Chapter 375. However, who on earth spread the news about what I did? She didn't know anything about it. Jingwan was only wearing a casual undergarment. Leaning against Li Hongyuan, she yawned lazily and twirled a strand of Li Hongyuan's hair with her fingers. Li Hongyuan was only wearing a single garment. He held her hand and kissed her fingertips. Does Wanwan mind? It doesn't matter. But obviously someone is up to no good. Because of Li Hongyuan's sincerity and love, reputation really didn't matter. Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Li Hongyuan lifted Jingwan's chin and lowered his head to kiss it. Li Hongyuan knew very well that as long as there was no other woman besides Wanwan by his side, no matter what he said, Wanwan would bear the name of a jealous woman. Although it was not impossible to get rid of it, it would take a long time at least to prove it. Only by letting people know his feelings for her, and letting him be labeled as affectionate, and let people believe that it wasn't that Wanwan didn't want to be with him, but that it wasn't that he didn't want her. Only in this way could he wash away the stigma of Wanwan. It would take a few years, a decade, or even decades, because no one thought that a powerful and influential man would be faithful to a woman. In this way, Li Hongyuan naturally wouldn't be polite. He had to find some benefits from Jingwan. However, his sweetheart could be a jealous woman or a fierce woman, because she would definitely be removed in the future. But she couldn't be labeled as a vicious woman. If her hands were stained with blood and human lives, as long as it was determined now, it couldn't be washed away in the future. Li Hongyuan had a basic idea of the people behind the scenes. These people fell down again and again, because they didn't know his role in it, so they had the courage to make trouble for him again and again. Jingwan turned sideways, hooked her arms around his neck, and exchanged a hot and lingering kiss with him. Of course I believe in you. Her forehead gently rubbed against Li Hongyuan's chin, incomparably intimate, and the scorching breath lingered. The husband and wife were calm, their servants were also calm, and those who knew the truth were also calm. However, there were more people who were not calm, especially after Lu Qingdi did not punish Jin Qinhuang Fei, and even gave her a large reward. They became even more unsettled, and some even became restless. The things that Jin Qinhuang Fei could do, could they also do it? So this was probably because she didn't know the inside story, and didn't have Jingwan's life, so she wanted to have the same illness as her. Well, out of 100 people, at least 99 of them had this kind of illness. The rest were either stupid, or had been severely brainwashed by the 3 obedience and 4 virtues. They were all sick, but only Jin Qinhuang Fei could valiantly show it. The others couldn't, so one could imagine the feeling in their hearts. Because of Jingwan, the Luo family was greatly affected, including the two cousins. Of course, Luo Peishan was still sitting in the position of Minister of Personnel. Even if the two in-laws had thoughts, they wouldn't show it. Furthermore, the two didn't do anything to their husbands' concubines and Tongfang. Jin Qinhuang Fei's time in the capital was also very short. When she first arrived in the capital, Luo Jingshu was already married and had a child. Luo Jingqiang also married not long after, so it didn't affect them. Don't forget, a few days ago, Jingwan also sent a large number of things to the two families. Nominally, it was the children's 3 baptisms and full moon gifts. However, other than what was designated for the 2 children, there were many other things. Some of these things, people like them simply couldn't afford to use. As daughters-in-law, Luo Jingshu and Luo Jingqiang weren't stingy with their in-laws' families. No matter what, there was no reason to make things difficult for them. After thinking about it, the one who was affected the most was still Jingwan's concubine-born sister, Luo Jingyu. She was only 1 year younger than Jingwan. Even though she was a concubine-born daughter, she had a grandfather, who was the Minister of Personnel, and a legitimate sister, who was a Qinhuang Fei. Naturally, she could be considered a fragrant piece of cake. Many people wanted to marry her, and many people wanted to marry their legitimate sons. Even though it wasn't the eldest legitimate son, it was enough to show their sincerity. When Jingwan's matter came out, many people retreated. Thus, as Luo Jingyu's birth mother Ji Yinyang was anxious. Originally, there were many outstanding men with good family backgrounds for her daughter to choose from. But now, Luo Jingyu herself was very calm. Originally, she was a little dull and timid, but Sun Yijia, her eldest sister-in-law, helped her to adjust. She had always followed Jingwan's lead, so she was very open-minded about this matter. Concubine, you don't have to worry. Anyway, I'm still young, so I can wait for another 2 years. Besides, I don't think that third sister's matter is a bad influence. 10 out of 10 people who want to marry me want to get benefits from the Luo family, so they should have the awareness of marrying a jealous woman back home. After all, I have the capital, don't I? If I want to have a woman on my left and right, and if I want to get a lot of benefits from my wife's family, how can there be such an easy thing? A truly ambitious man will not put too much thought into the harem, so naturally, he will be relatively indifferent to women. In my case, it's purely a marriage of benefits, and for the sake of the future, such a man is the best choice. Moreover, this matter is obviously strange. We all know what kind of person third sister is. Although she doesn't like concubines and concubines, even if she wants to deal with those women, she will definitely do such a vicious thing. Just look at grandmother and the others. Who knows, in a few days, it will be completely different. Thus, Yinyang, you can rest assured that my marriage will not go wrong. Who knows, I might be able to choose the best one. When Ji Yinyang heard this, it seemed that this was the truth. Her heart gradually calmed down. However, when she looked at her eldest daughter again, she had a new level of respect for her. Was she really that dull and timid child? Luo Jingyu looked at her Yinyang and smiled. She lowered her head and continued to embroider. Third sister-in-law not only sent people to teach me, but also brought me here from time to time. If I don't make any progress, wouldn't I be letting down third sister's good intentions? What does this have to do with your third sister? Luo Jingyu raised her head again and looked at her Yinyang with a strange expression. If third sister didn't ask third sister-in-law, do you think third sister-in-law would pay attention to me? Ji Yinyang's face was somewhat flustered. She really was muddle-headed. However, she wasn't anxious at all. She was too lazy to care about this daughter. Serving foreign was the most important thing. Other than Jingwan, who was at the center of the vortex, the other person who received the most attention was probably Li Hongyuan. Although Jin Qinhuang had spoiled those women in the past and completely did not touch them, but he had always spent money to support them. Now, all of them were dealt with by Jin Qinhuang Fei. To a certain extent, it was undoubtedly 2 slaps on the face. It was simply trampling his dignity on the ground. His face was completely lost, and no man could tolerate it. Thus, he was caught by his brothers and laughed at. https://www.bicken com/11/11807/66544091. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bikin.com. Bikaga mobile reading website, bikin.com. Chapter 376. Li Hongyuan didn't say to accept, nor did he say to refuse. Prince Kong just minded his own business and let people send the beauties out. When Li Hongyuan saw them, his lips curled into a smile. Triplets were indeed triplets. Their identical faces were not a lie, and they were indeed quite beautiful. The only slight difference was probably due to their gender. 2 females and 1 male. He was lustful, and liked both men and women. This was a reputation he had created himself. However, he had never blatantly sent any male prostitutes to him. Due to his special use, he had once raised 2 or 3 in the courtyard. Prince Kong clapped his hands and smiled. I just knew that 6th brother would like it. Someone come. Send the person to Jin Qin Wang Fu. Be sure to hand the person over to Jin Qin Wang Fei, and let her take good care of the person. However, no matter what, it was sent by Ben Wang. There is no need to remind. I believe that 6th daimyo will settle the person down properly. Eldest imperial brother. Li Hongyuan opened his mouth to speak. Prince Kong waved his hand. 6th brother doesn't need to be polite. We are all brothers of the same family. If you need anything in the future, you only need to tell this older brother. Today, Li Hongyuan held a string of beads in his hand, fiddling with each bead. He didn't speak, but that expression of a smile that wasn't a smile made people's scalp numb. There was a saying, some people want to court death, and you can't stop them. Today, 9th Wangya was the host and invited his brothers to sit down. Prince Kong only prepared a big gift for Jin Qin Wang. At this time, the others didn't get any benefits, but they didn't mind at all. Each and every one of them had a smile on their faces and were respectful to each other. The scene looked exceptionally harmonious. After the beauties were sent away, Prince Kang's personal attendants led 2 guards of the Wangfu to the gates of Jin Qin Wangfu. With a smile on their faces, they politely stated the purpose of their visit. The guards of Jin Qin Wangfu were expressionless, but the expression in their eyes was a bit strange. They were actually Li Hongyuan's personal guards. The reason why they were watching the gate was because after Jingwan was injured, she was given an additional punishment of 50 whips. They were very clear about their master's thoughts towards Wang Fei. The reason why Wang Fei did so much was because she was forced by Wang Ye. Now that they had sent beauties, and even sent them into Wang Fei's hands, they only wanted to hee-hee in their hearts, gloating over their misfortune, as they waited to see how these people would end up. He didn't show any of his thoughts on his face. How can such a lowly person walk through the gate of the prince's mansion? Send him to the Jiaomen. Prince Kang's personal attendant's face was a bit green, but in the end he was still able to hold it in. Our family wants to serve our Wang Ye. This means we would have to trouble Tong Bing Wang Fei Nyang to ask her to bring the person in. Is that possible? As for handing it over to Jin Qin Wang Fei, could it be that they really had to enter through the corner gate? This wasn't just about his own face, it was also related to his Wang Ye's face. Therefore, it would be easier to explain after returning. It wasn't that he didn't want to, but that he couldn't. Then you wait. Immediately after entering the gate, he called for a small steward to pass on the message back to the inner courtyard. It could be considered to be reporting layer by layer, so this speed really couldn't be fast. In addition, there were people who deliberately neglected them. By the time the message reached Jingwan, it had already been a while. Jingwan gave an O with interest, her fingers lightly tapping the table. It was said that one is marked by the company one keeps. She was really influenced by Li Hongyuan. Qing Zhu, have people prepare a ceremonial stand. I want to go to Prince Kongqing's Fu. Guards and the like bring more. Although the people around Jingwan had different temperaments, none of them were stupid. What Jingwan wanted to do, they quickly understood, and completely didn't feel that there was anything wrong with their Wang Fei doing this. Originally, Wang Ye and Wang Fei were just living their own lives. It was none of other people's business. Each and every one of them had to jump around and make a ruckus. They couldn't even clean up their own moo of land, and still had to stretch their hands into other people's backyard. This kind of person clearly needed to be taught a lesson. If they didn't show some severity, they wouldn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. As time passed, they still didn't see any movement in Jin Qin Wang Fu. Being ignored like this, Prince Kang's personal attendant's face became worse and worse. However, this was after all the front gate of the living king of hell's Wang Fu. He naturally didn't dare to be rash. If he angered the living king of hell, their Wang Ye would still be beaten black and blue. Although he still had some face in front of his Wang Ye, in front of Jin Qin Wang, he wasn't even worth a fart. But this task wasn't completed, he couldn't go back. He forced himself to smile. Can I ask? Ask what? Wang Fei has her own ideas on how to do things. What should be done is done. There's no need to ask more. The Imperial Guard didn't say anything else, and directly blocked his way. A certain Gonggong's heart was filled with resentment. What arrogance! Even if she was a Wang Fei, she still had to have her own man to back her up. Otherwise, she was just a figurehead. Now with Jin Qin Wang's face, let's see how long your Wang Fei can last. Thinking about it, he still had to force a smile on his face. We are servants. We naturally don't have the guts to ask about our master's matters. It's just that this matter isn't short, our Wang Ye. The Imperial Guard sneered. No one asked you to wait here. Not serving your master well, naturally it's your fault. His face was green and white, very wonderful. Just as he was about to say something, there was finally movement in the Wang Fu, so he closed his mouth. But this movement didn't seem to be right. The ceremonial racks were properly set up. 2 groups of Imperial Guards. There were close to 100 people, followed by a row of servant girls and mama serving. Like stars surrounding the moon, they clustered around Jin Qin Wang Fei, who was dressed more casually, as she came out. Speaking of this, Jin Qin Wang Fei's attire really didn't match this kind of lineup. But Kong Qin Wang's personal attendant only felt inexplicable fear and trepidation, feeling that something bad was about to happen. As Jin Qin Wang Fei walked in, he hurriedly lowered his head. Jingwan walked in and stood in front of Kong Qin Wang's personal attendant. This servant greets Wang Fei Nyang Nyang. He hurriedly paid his respects. No matter how many twists and turns he had in his heart before, now he didn't dare to show it at all. You're sending beauties to our Wang Ye on behalf of your Wang Ye? Jingwan spoke softly, sounding warm and gentle, with a faint trace of laughter. Kong Qin Wang's personal attendant's legs and stomach trembled for no reason. He was clearly a completely different person from Jin Qin Wang. His words and actions could be said to be 2 extremes, but the feeling he gave people was so similar. Wang Fei Nyang Nyang. It's these people behind you? 1 man and 2 women? Kong Qin Wang is very thoughtful and considerate towards our Wang Ye. Kong Qin Wang's personal attendant didn't dare to answer. The things that Kong Qin Wang had repeatedly warned, don't mention saying it out loud. He didn't even dare to say it out loud. Jingwan smiled. All right, let's go. Go where? He couldn't help stuttering. He was so scared that he forgot the proper etiquette. Go where? Naturally, it's to go to Prince Kang's mansion. Your prince has such good intentions. How can you just accept it for no reason? As the saying goes, there's a need to reciprocate politeness. Jingwan smiled and explained good-naturedly. Kong Qin Wang's personal attendant only had fear left. And he thought of a possibility, Jin Qin Wang Fei. How could Jin Qin Wang Fei do this? May I ask Wang Fei Nyang Nyang, which beauty has been prepared for our Wang Ye? The one that Wang Fei Nyang Nyang has prepared must be a beauty capable of causing the downfall of a city. A first-class beauty. I'm not too clear on this. I think you should be more clear on this. After all, you've trained her. Wang Fei Nyang Nyang, this is our Wang Ye's gift to Jin Qin Wang Yi, so. I know this Wang Fei has already accepted it. Since I've accepted it, she naturally belongs to my Jin Qin Wang Fu. Then, if this Wang Fei wants to send her out to whom, this Wang Fei has the final say. I personally think that since she was trained by Kong Qin Wang Fu, she must be trained according to Kong Qin Wang Ye's preferences. Giving her to him, I believe that it is most appropriate. But this is for Jin Qinhuang Yi. The weather in the middle of October could make people sweat, but they didn't dare to reach out to wipe it. Oh, this means that the person sent to our Wang Ye, can she surpass this Wang Fei? This Wang Fei can't touch her, can't handle her, and can't even speak of her? Wang Fei Nyang is thinking too much. This servant absolutely doesn't mean that. Then why don't you tell this princess, what do you mean? If you can't explain it clearly, this Wang Fei can't help but find your Wang Ye to discuss it. That's not right. Kong Qinhuang Yi is still eldest uncle. How can I, as a younger sister-in-law, find him? It's just that this Kong Qinhuang Fu doesn't have a Wang Fei, so I can only ask to see the Empress Nyang. Kong Qinhuang's close attendant's legs went soft and directly knelt. Wang Fei Nyang, please calm your anger. It's this servant who doesn't have a brain and spoke nonsense. Pa. She slapped herself a few times and didn't hesitate at all. You are the mistress of Jin Qinhuang Fu. It's just a few lowly servants. You naturally can handle them. Jingwan slightly nodded. It's good that you know. Jingwan reached out and put her hand on Gong Mama's arm to get on the carriage. 2 head maidservants followed to serve, and the rest followed at the side. This lineup, compared to a complete Qinhuang ceremonial procession, was not far off. The majestic procession, the destination, was Kong Qinhuang Fu. Kong Qinhuang's close attendant stood up while trembling, wanting to immediately report to Kong Qinhuang. However, several guards of Jin Qinhuang Fu directly drew their swords and looked like they were about to make a move. Please go ahead. Like this, it was not only the 3 beauties who were frightened, even the 2 guards of Kong Qinhuang were sweating. It was obvious that they were not prepared to let them go to the 9th Wang Yes Fu to report to Kong Qinhuang. Kong Qinhuang Fu and Jin Qinhuang Fu were not on the same street, but they were not far apart. It was just that when the ceremonial procession of Jin Qinhuang Fu arrived at the entrance of Kong Qinhuang Fu, the guards were lined up, and the maidservants and biddies were clustered around. The entrance of the carriage was facing the entrance of Kong Qinhuang Fu. At a glance, one would know that it was not a good thing. The guards guarding the entrance acted as if they were facing a great enemy, their left hand clenching the scabbard, and their right hand clenching the hilt. Jingwan got down from the carriage and walked straight to the entrance. The 4 guards who were about to stop her were unceremoniously taken down by the guards of Jin Qinhuang Fu. Jingwan stepped through the entrance of Kong Qinhuang Fu as if she was entering her own home. After entering, the ordinary servants did not dare to approach, and those who had the guts to approach with fear and trepidation were all directly knocked down. In the end, the deputy head of the guards of Kong Qinhuang Fu hurriedly rushed over with people. Originally, under normal circumstances, when the Wang Fei of other Wang Fu came to visit, it had nothing to do with them. But now it was completely different. It was clear that they did not come with good intentions. The guards of Jin Qinhuang Fu took the lead and stood in front of Jingwan to protect her. Jingwan waved her hand to let them withdraw and walked forward as if nothing had happened. They were clearly a group of tall and strong men, but when she moved forward, they could only retreat. It was as if they were not facing a defenseless and weak woman, but a scourge and a fierce beast. The other party was a Qinhuang Fei. Not to mention her noble status, the most important point was that she was the Wang Fei of the living king of hell. If there was even the slightest bit of injury, Jin Qinhuang might bring people to flatten Kong Qinhuang Fu. Their master might be fine, but they would definitely not have a good end. If Wang Fei Nyang has something to say, there is no harm in letting this humble one pass on the message. While retreating, they tried to speak calmly. It's none of your business. Get out of the way for Ben Wang Fei. Jingwan did not speak harshly, but her expression was calm without any ripples, and had an indescribable dignity. Wang Fei Nyang, please forgive us. Guarding Kong Qinhuang Fu is our duty. Please forgive us. If they could, they also wanted to hide far away. So you say that you must stop Ben Wang Fei? Alright, let's see if you can stop me. Talking was one thing. When Jingwan stepped forward, they could only retreat. What are you doing? Still not retreating. A woman's voice came from behind the guards. Hearing this, they all breathed a sigh of relief, and hurriedly retreated to both sides. Greetings Wang Fei Nyang. We didn't know Wang Fei Nyang had come, so we didn't go out to meet you. Wang Fei Nyang, please forgive us. This beauty was simple but dignified. She was one of Prince Kang's side concubines, the former Princess Kang's younger sister. When Prince Kang's wife was in mourning, she entered the family to take care of Princess Kang's children. When Prince Kang Qinhuangfu did not have a legal wife, she was the mistress. As for the other side concubine, she was from Prince Kang's sworn enemy. When she entered the Fu, she was sent to a remote and broken courtyard. However, she was still a beauty, and had been abused by Prince Kang many times. Jingwan sized up this side concubine, and thought that it was a pity. Although Prince Kang was Lu Qingdi's eldest legitimate son, and his status was more honorable than the other brothers, he was essentially scum, the scum of scum. This girl could have had her own beautiful marriage, but because of her sister's dying request, she entered Prince Kang Qinhuangfu and became a side concubine. Probably no one asked for her opinion and thoughts. Although she had not been in the capital for long, she had not heard any news about this side concubine. If she was really willing, it was impossible for her to not have a sense of existence. No need for formalities. Jingwan was invited to enter the inner courtyard. Jin Qinhuangfu's bodyguard stayed in the outer courtyard, but the rest of the people followed in, including Prince Kang's personal attendants and the triplets' beauties. Not going to the guest room, not going to the reception pavilion, Jingwan stayed in the garden. That side concubine did not ask Jingwan what she wanted to do, and just stayed by her side. Everyone says that Prince Kang Qinhuangfu's rear courtyard is filled with beauties like clouds. Ben Wangfei has no other intention today, just wanted to broaden my horizons. Jingwan smiled and said lightly. That side concubine looked thoughtfully at Jingwan, and directly ordered people to gather all the concubines in each courtyard. The phrase beauties like clouds was not an exaggeration. Compared to Jin Qinhuangfu's rear courtyard, it was much more exciting and dazzling. However, in this kind of situation, there was only one that attracted the most attention. Because it was too conspicuous, those who didn't know would think that the other party was the real mistress of this rear courtyard. No matter if it was the clothes on her body or that style, it was far better than the side concubine next to Jingwan. This person was Yarao. Yarao met Jingwan's gaze. She had seen Jingwan once, but she was not very clear. But Jingwan had a deep impression of her. Suddenly, Jingwan hooked her lips and smiled. Yarao's back went cold as she had a bad premonition. Jingwan turned her head and said a few words. Although it made people confused, Prince Kang's side concubine still let people do as she said. An arhat bed was set up with curtains around it. Then, under Jingwan's signal, Gong Mama walked towards Yarao. Yarao hastily retreated, and her maidservants tried to block Gong Mama. But how could they? They were slapped away by Gong Mama. And at that moment, Gong Mama clearly felt that those two maidservants were trying to fight back. Clearly they were martial artists. Gong Mama sneered in her heart, and didn't mind. She grabbed Yarao. The other concubines who were originally clustered around her were frightened, and quickly retreated while screaming. Yarao knew that she could not avoid it. To avoid suffering, she followed Gong Mama's strength and walked away. Wang Fei Nyang. This concubine doesn't know if this concubine has Yarao's question was still calm, but it instantly turned into a scream, because Gong Mama tore her clothes in front of everyone. Yarao did not have time to say anything else, and resisted in panic. Speaking of which, although she was originally a loose woman, it was different now. She must maintain her chastity in order to have a foothold in Prince Kang Fu. But her struggle was like a little chick in Gong Mama's hands. Yarao was stripped naked and thrown into the curtains. Then, Gong Mama pulled out the man among the three beauties. Jingwan's intention was self-evident. Many concubines looked askance and panicked in their hearts. No matter what method was used to train a man, he was a man after all. Gong Mama pulled him into the curtains and began to tear his clothes. For her, this kind of thing naturally did not matter. Gong Mama soon came out and casually threw the torn clothes in her hands on the ground. In the curtains, there were screams one after another. However, the voice that was slightly masculine was louder than the other one. https://www.bicken com/11/11807/66544095. HTML. Please click here to report an error. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Mobile Edition. Chapter 377. The onlookers outside, after the initial panic, gradually began to rejoice in other people's misfortune, especially those concubines of Prince Kong. No matter if they were in opposition to Yaorao or fawning on her to survive. In fact, the more they flattered her, the happier they were in their heart at this moment. They all depended on the same man to survive. His favor determined their status. There were so many concubines in the harem, but Yaorao monopolized more than half of his favor. As for the rest, some people couldn't even get a little bit in 2 or 3 months. How could they not be jealous? Sometimes when it was easy to get some soup and water, they were intercepted halfway. How many things were thrown, and how many handkerchiefs were torn. They believed that their beauty and talent were not inferior to Yaorao. How could she? After this incident, even if Prince Kong didn't kill her, they didn't believe that he could still favor her like before. It was like a woman who was born in prostitution. No matter how dissolute she was, once she turned over a new leaf, she couldn't have any relationship with a man other than her husband. Even if she was only seen but not touched, it was still an unforgivable sin. Yaorao was exactly like this. This was not only related to her innocence, but also related to Prince Kang's face. If Prince Kong could still take it lightly in the face of such a situation, probably everyone would praise him as good tolerance. Prince Kang's side concubine glanced at Jingwan thoughtfully, but she didn't ask. Anyway, she never thought highly of Li Hongyi and never cared about him. She never thought of having a child of her own, not only for the sake of her sister's child, but also because she didn't want to give birth to that man's child. Every time she talked about having a child, her family would say that she was sensible and considerate. In fact, it was a joke. They said that when the child grew up in the future, he would be filial to her and treat her as his biological mother. She would be the most honorable woman in the world. Although they didn't say it, the meaning was obvious. In fact, she wanted to say that they thought too much. Even if Li Hongyi ascended to that position, he wouldn't be able to hold it for long. In the end, his end would be countless times more miserable than not sitting directly. Moreover, there were some things that were said by their own people. But who knew how many times other people had said it? Thinking about it, it was meaningless. No one knew who could really reach that step. Maybe it was an unknown person, or maybe it was the most unexpected person. She had raised her sister's child with all her heart, and that was enough. It could be said that she had fulfilled their sisterhood. If there was a next life, they did not want to be sisters anymore. As for other things, whether the child she raised would be filial to her, it did not matter. She did not care at all. Among the people present, the one who had the biggest reaction was Prince Kang's valet, who was trembling like a sieve. Not only did he fail to complete the task assigned to him, but he also made such a scene. He could already imagine the scene where his master, in a rage, cut him into pieces. All that was left in his mind were these, over and over again. The gate of Prince Kang's Fu was blocked by the guards of Prince Kang's Fu, so even if they wanted to go out through the gate to report, they could forget about it. But other gates were not a problem. After all, when Jingwan did this, she didn't think that she would come and quietly leave, and then wait for Prince Kong to go to Prince Jin Fu to find trouble. It was better to solve trouble in other people's homes. Therefore, Jingwan was calmly waiting for Prince Kong to come back. Jingwan's current reputation as a jealous woman was quite big. Even Prince Kang Si Fei, who did not leave the house, had heard about it. Once, Gongqin Wangfei was considered one of the more powerful daughters-in-law of the imperial family. But compared to the current prince consort of Jin, she was really a small child in the presence of a great sorcerer. They were not on the same level. After all, the things that Gongqin Wangfei did were far from being cleaned up in one go. She only flipped out in her own backyard. And to the outside, she still had to whitewash it. This one was happy and fearless, even when everyone knew about it. Now that she did such a heinous thing in Prince Kang's Fu, she still had a smile on her face, without the slightest bit of a guilty conscience, as if what she did was nothing more than eating and drinking. On the other side, a guard of Prince Kang's Fu rushed to the 9th Wang Ye's Fu at the fastest speed. On this kind of day, he was drenched in sweat. When he was brought in, all the adult princes were present. Beauties accompanied them as they drank and chatted merrily. Of course, not everyone had a beauty by their side. When Prince Kong saw that the guards in his mansion were still panting and anxious, he felt that he had lost face for a moment. His face darkened in an instant. How can you be so flustered? What a scandal! The guard calmed his breathing. Wang Ye, that Jin Qin Wang Fei. He subconsciously glanced at Li Hongyuan. Everyone understood in their hearts. 8 or 9 out of 10. It was Jin Qin Wang Fei making trouble again. They all looked at Li Hongyuan with a smile. Although they did not show it on their faces, they were ridiculing him in their hearts. On the other hand, Li Hongyuan was still the same, drinking happily and contentedly without the slightest fluctuation in his mood. Although he still did not know what his wife did, he was very clear in his heart that if this matter was exposed, the one who would be laughed at would not be him. From the looks of it, it should be quite serious. Li Hongyuan only felt gratified. It was not in vain for him to sit here and wait for a good show. After all, if it was in the past, even if he went to a certain brother's appointment, it would be good if he could give face and drink 2 cups of wine. What are you hemming and hawing for? If you have something to say it directly. Everyone here is Ben Wang's brother. There is nothing to hide. Old Six, don't you agree? Li Hongyuan played with the small jade cup in his hand, smiling yet not smiling. Indeed. Prince Kang's heart inexplicably jumped, as if he had a bad premonition. However, after thinking about it, at most, it would be that 6th sister-in-law who was unhappy and threw a tantrum. What else could it be? Therefore, he insisted that the guard speak of the matter, without leaving anything out. The guard had no choice but to brace himself and lower his head. Like pouring beans, the speed of his speech was quite fast, and in fact, it was just a matter of a few sentences. When he finished speaking, the scene was so silent that a pin drop could be heard. Then, Prince Kong directly exploded, flinging away the beauty in his arms and kicking over the short table in front of him. He looked at Li Hongyuan with a gloomy face. Looking at Li Hongyuan's expression, he even suspected that he knew from the beginning. However, no one knew that he was going to give her away, so this possibility should not exist. Moreover, when he thought of Li Hongyuan's ruthlessness and the pain of his back almost being trampled on, he naturally did not dare to flare up at him. Where is Jin Wangfei now? Replying to Wang Ye, she is still in the Fu. Although Prince Kong did not dare to challenge Li Hongyuan, he still dared to say a few words. 6th brother seems to be a man without discipline. That ridicule was not concealed at all. Why do you say that? The one who provoked Ben Wang's Wang Fei was eldest imperial brother, not Ben Wang. When eldest imperial brother was giving her away, Ben Wang wanted to remind you that Ben Wang was not interested in those beauties. So it was best that you did not send them to Jin Wangfu. It was you who did not listen. Now it's just sending her back to you. What's the big deal? What's the big deal? Stripping his beloved concubine and throwing her together with a man. Was that called no big deal? Li Hongyuan, this bastard, did not take him seriously. His face, when he wanted to step on it, he stepped on it. Now a mere woman dared to do this to him. Prince Kang's face was ferocious as he flicked his sleeves and left. Li Hongyuan also stood up. He knew what kind of temper Li Hongyuan had. Li Hongyuan was worried that he would not care about anything when he got mixed up. In this way, Wanwan might be passive. Of course, he did not think that Wanwan would suffer a loss. If he let his mistress suffer a loss, then the group of bodyguards would not need to mingle. However, knowing was one thing, his heart would still be worried. He must be present to watch and personally protect, before he could feel at ease. And for the others, this was a good show. It would be a waste if they did not watch. If they watched, they could still find some entertainment. So they all got up and followed, still immaculately dressed on the surface. By the time this group of men arrived at the garden of Prince Kong Fu, Jingwan and Prince Kang's Sifei were still chatting and laughing while drinking tea. Seeing the aggressive Prince Kong, Jingwan unhurriedly got up, and the others followed her to pay their respects. Prince Kong did not shout rise, but Jingwan consciously stood up straight. There was a faint smile at the corner of her mouth, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Prince Kang's return time is a bit later than expected. Fortunately, Prince Kong Fu is not completely unpleasant to the eyes. Otherwise, wouldn't it make people impatient to wait? When these words came out, many people sucked in a breath of cold air. Many people even secretly sighed in their hearts. Not one family would enter the same house. This degree of arrogance was comparable to Prince Jin. Prince Kang's face was distorted. He was obviously restraining his impulse to hit people. Today, we came to Prince Kong Fu to let Prince Kong know that unless our Wangya personally asks for the person, there is no need to take the initiative to give the person away. Sixth sister-in-law's courage. When the time comes, people will be surprised. In the end, you are only Lisher's daughter-in-law. The husband is the wife's leader, the 3 obediences and 4 virtues. Jingwan suddenly smiled and interrupted Prince Kong. In a flash, her face was cold. Prince Kong is sending a man to Didi's rear courtyard. What? Do you want to commit adultery in Didi's rear courtyard? Do you want to go find the Empress for comment? Or do you want to directly find Fu Huang for comment? This hat was a bit too big. Prince Kong gritted his teeth and said, "A child molester can also be considered a man?" Jingwan clapped her hands and smiled. "If Prince Kong says so, then there is no problem. Mama, go, send in a few more of Prince Kang's concubines." The child molesters and concubines are a family, serving Prince Kong together. Presumably, in Prince Kang's eyes, it is absolutely a wonderful thing. https://www.bicon.com/11/11807/6654097. HTML chapter error. Click here to report, exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicon.com. Bikago mobile reading website, bicon.com. Chapter 378. Luo, sure you dare. Jingwan raised a hand to stop Gong Mama. Why wouldn't I dare? Besides, Prince Kong himself doesn't care, so why get angry? Prince Kang's eyes were about to split open. No man would not care about this kind of thing. Behind him, Prince Kang's brothers all wanted to cover their faces with their hands. They really didn't want to admit that this was their brother, and that the Empress shrewd woman had given birth to him. Although Fu Huang wasn't particularly wise, he should still be considered normal. How could his son be a cripple? Right now they were completely being led by the nose, alright? In any case, the first thing to do now was to remove something that was more conspicuous, wasn't it? However, they were quite happy to watch this kind of joke. They could even go into the palace and tell their Mufei. Then, they could also watch the Empress make a fool of herself. Oh, then Prince Kong, why don't you tell me what you care about? Jingwan carelessly stroked her sleeves. Prince Kong was furious. Jingwan's attitude made him almost stomp his feet. He pointed at the curtain. What I care about? You still dare to ask Ben Wang what I care about a man? A child molester isn't a man. Prince Kong, you said it yourself. It's said that a woman's heart is like a needle at the bottom of the sea. But men don't seem to be outdone. If Prince Kong doesn't care about this matter, then it naturally means that I, as your sister-in-law, didn't do anything wrong. Then your anger is unreasonable. But if Prince Kong does mind, then I can't help but suspect that you have ulterior motives. You dare to do something that even you care about in your younger brother's backyard. What are your intentions? The more she spoke, the colder her expression became. Prince Kong was blocked until he couldn't speak. So after all was said and done, it was all his fault? If he said that he didn't mind, his backyard would probably be seen as a den of lust. If he did mind, then he intended to harm his younger brother. He couldn't get angry over the former. But if he got angry over the latter, others would only get angrier. Whatever they did was reasonable. In the end, This Jin Qin Wang Fei had trampled on his face and caused a ruckus in his Wang Fu. But he had to come and apologize and settle the matter peacefully? Thinking of this, Prince Kong, who was burning with anger, lost his mind and raised his hand to slap her. Jingwan was also on guard against him. She subconsciously took 2 steps back. Prince Kang's first slap did not succeed. He wanted to do it a second time, but someone grabbed his wrist. Prince Kong screamed in pain, thinking that his wrist was broken. Li Hongyi, do you think I'm dead? You dare to attack this prince's princess in front of this prince? Li Hongyi's voice was so cold that it could drop ice shards. Prince Kong wanted to break free from Li Hongyuan's grip, but his little bit of strength was not enough. Moreover, he was in so much pain that he could not exert any strength. It had already become a habit for them to pretend to be brothers. Now that they saw this scene, the other brothers naturally came forward to mediate. Li Hongyuan's cold gaze swept over them. Li Hongming and the others seemed to be frozen. That gaze was too obvious. It was clearly saying that if they dared to interfere, then they were asking for it. To be honest, these brothers, including the sickly 5th prince, had also eaten at Li Hongyuan's place. However, compared to the others, it was nothing. It was nothing at all. Because the loss they suffered at Li Hongyuan's hands was too painful, they really could not summon up the courage to continue. In the end, Li Hongyuan was different from Jingwan. Jingwan took a roundabout route, while Li Hongyuan was simple and crude. However, his method could not be imitated by others. Because what he could do, others could not do. Jingwan saw that it was about time. She took 2 steps forward and held Li Hongyuan's other hand in a place where others could not see. Li Hongyuan tilted his head and glanced at her. He did not say anything and let go of her hand. The hostility in his eyes did not dissipate much. Li Hongyi rubbed his wrist that seemed to be about to break. He looked at Li Hongyuan and could not hold back the hatred in his eyes. He said sarcastically, "6th brother has no scruples about men and women. They have been raised together since a long time ago. If he wanted to commit adultery, he would have done it long ago, right? Look at what Prince Kong is saying. Those things in the past were thrown away after 7 days at most. Can things that have been thrown away still be considered masters? No matter how messy they are, it can't be considered our Wangyas. Just like the beauties that our Wangya sent out before. Could they still be considered our Wangyas? Prince Kong received the most, right? Could it be that he still thought that they were our Wangya's women when he gave them the rights? Don't make me laugh to death," Jingwan said sarcastically. Prince Kang's face turned green and white. When men are talking, when is it a woman's turn to interrupt? Old 6th is awe-inspiring in front of us brothers, but his own woman is riding on his head. Jingwan made no attempt to hide her TSK. Prince Kong is right. As a woman in the inner courtyard, it's not good for her to argue with men. Of course, there are people around. A man using a woman's means. Thus, if he is cut by a woman, it's his own fault. He deserves it. Lady Lua, what do you mean? Jingwan looked at Prince Kong with a fake smile. What I said. As she said this, her eyes swept over Li Hongming and the others. Besides, I didn't mention names. Someone came up to answer. Is he admitting that he did something? The others listened. No matter what, Li Hongyuan did not spend much most of the time. But when his mouth was venomous, he could make you so angry that 1 Buddha left your body, and 2 Buddhas ascended to heaven. Jin Qin Wang Fei's ability to insult others was enough to make people vomit blood. She clearly meant to implicate them, but they did not dare to answer. Originally, for a man to argue with a woman, he was at a disadvantage. If he really did not let it go, he would lose all face. Thus, Prince Kong turned his head and started to bombard Li Hongyuan. I really couldn't tell that old 6th is someone who is caught by a woman, and a jealous, vicious and merciless woman. Let's not talk about whether you lose face as a man or not. If Fu Huang finds out, this elder brother can see it. Finding a bunch of excuses to make trouble in Ben Wang Fu. In essence, it's just not tolerating people. Looking at it this way, her scheming is really impressive. I'd like to see if you're going to spend the rest of your life with her, old 6. Li Hongyuan looked at Li Hongyi with a subtle gaze, as if he was looking at an idiot. He was too lazy to pay attention to him. Jealous? Prince Kong, are you talking about me? How can you say this? I still need Prince Kong to explain. A perfect smile hung on Jingwan's face again. Prince Kong, you must not invert right and wrong, and put a big hat on me just to evade your own mistakes. When these words came out, who knew how many people's mouths twitched? Who was the one who inverted right and wrong? Could it be that the beauties in Old Sixth's courtyard were not handled by Daimei? It was me who handled them. Does it have anything to do with jealousy? I already said that it was just some things that our Wangya didn't want. I don't know where they were long forgotten. I forgot to instruct the subordinates, so I spent money to raise them. I became the mistress of Jin Qin Wangfu, cleaning up some useless and wasteful things. How could it be related to jealousy? It's true that Jin Qin Wangfu is rich, but that didn't come from the wind. The places that should be frugal still need to be frugal, Jingwan said as she looked at Li Hongyuan in confusion. Wangya, could it be that this Chia has done something wrong? Li Hongyuan put his hand to his lips. At this moment, he actually wanted to laugh a little, but he still cooperated with Jingwan and continued to act. Wang Fei is not wrong. So, Prince Kong said that I'm jealous. Where did this conclusion come from? As for this ruthlessness, I don't know when I became ruthless and merciless, directly beating people into meat paste. Some dirty water shouldn't be splashed. I've only ruined my reputation, but the person who splashed dirty water, I don't know what they've ruined. These words in some people's ears couldn't stop their hearts from jumping. This had a deeper meaning. Since Prince Kong wants to distort the facts, then I can only find Fu Huang to reason with. At that time, don't say that I, as a daimyo, didn't give face. There's one more thing that I need to let you know. Whether I'm jealous or not, it's up to our Wangya to decide. He didn't say anything, but the people outside are chattering. It's unreasonable. Or do you all think that the living king of hell is someone that I can control? Everyone looked at Li Hongyuan. What he said was indeed very reasonable. How could a woman easily deal with someone that even the emperor couldn't control? Li Hongyuan was actually a little helpless at this moment. It was originally a very serious matter, but it seemed that his wife had almost resolved it, and she even used his name. Well, on this point he was really wronged. He was clearly controlled by his wife, but he was very obedient. Forget it. There was no point in haggling over this. No one would believe it. Who told his reputation to be so deep-rooted? It was difficult for him to turn over a new leaf? It's quite boring. Let's go back. At this moment, Li Hongyuan seemed to have lost all his anger, as if he wasn't the one who wanted to kill people just now. Jingwan nodded slightly, but before she left, she still looked at Li Hongyi. Does Prince Kong have anything to say? Prince Kong sneered. Ben Wang's actions are upright, but it seems that I pitted sixth brother and sent him a few beauties. It's just that I wasn't considerate enough. Even in front of Fu Huang, Ben Wang will say the same thing. The others nodded slightly in their hearts. And some of the water in his brain was finally poured out. Jingwan expressed her understanding. Then I don't have to go in front of Fu Huang to comment on anything. Prince Kang's smile deepened, still carrying mockery and complacency, as if saying, "What can you do to me?" The others wanted to facepalm again. Please look at the situation clearly. The curtains haven't been removed yet, and your beloved concubine is naked with a man inside. It's just that she won't go in front of Fu Huang. But this might not be a good thing. Since Jin Qin Wang Fei could do such a thing in Prince Kang's Fu, then she might do something even more outrageous. Then it's better to go directly in front of Fu Huang and completely settle the matter. Sure enough, Jin Qin Wang Fei had a smile on her lips, her eyes cold. No matter if Prince Kong wasn't considerate enough or did it on purpose, I'm sure it's the latter. Prince Kong doesn't treat a child molester as a man and doesn't care. But this Wang Fei cares very much, and is also very angry. Prince Kong, just watch, this matter isn't over. Then, Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan, a smile overflowing from the bottom of her eyes. It came from the bottom of her heart, gentle and affectionate, and she even took the initiative to pull Li Hongyuan's hand. Are we leaving now? Li Hongyuan nodded, ignoring the others, and pulled Jingwan away. And the people brought by Jingwan also crouched down and left with their masters. Prince Kong stood in the same place, his expression a little indescribable. The good show was over, so Li Hongming and the others also took their leave. Even if Li Hongyi wanted to eat them up, it didn't dispel their good mood. The unrelated people left, and then only their own people were left. Their faces were cut, and they were ridiculed to death. They had no road ahead, no door behind. They couldn't do anything to those people, but couldn't they deal with a group of lowly servants? Her entire person seemed to be shrouded in dark clouds, gloomy and sinister, looking exceptionally terrifying. Almost everyone's legs trembled. But Prince Kang's secondary consort was like an outsider. She crouched down and was about to take her leave. She only said that it had been a while, and she should go see the child. He knew that he wasn't in her heart, and also felt that she actually looked down on him, laughing at him like an outsider. Prince Kang's eyes were red from the provocation. Like a wild beast that had lost its mind, he grabbed the other person's neck. "Slut, you also dare to look at Ben Wang like that? You also dare." All the servants were frightened. Their legs went soft, and they knelt down on the ground, trembling. It should be known that they had always respected this secondary consort, not only because she took care of the little heir, but also because Prince Kong gave her face. Enchanting Rao was so favored, but she couldn't shake this secondary consort's position. Now that she was crazy and wanted to strangle the secondary consort to death, then they were naturally nothing. You clearly could have stopped it, but you let things develop to this extent, making Ben Wang be humiliated and laughed at by those good brothers. Ben Wang thinks that Ben Wang has taken good care of you, but you actually dare to treat Ben Wang like this? Since your heart isn't in Prince Kang's mansion, Ben Wang will fulfill your wish and send you to hell. Prince Kang's secondary consort's face was faintly green, and she only felt abnormally uncomfortable. However, although there was pain on her face, she didn't struggle, and her eyes could even be said to be calm. The more Prince Kong looked at her, the more he was an eyesore, and the strength of his hand was increasing. "Lord Father, what are you doing? Quickly let go of Aunt." Prince Kang's 7 or 8 years old legitimate eldest son was like an angry cub, rushing straight up and punching and kicking his father. "Let go of my aunt, let go of my aunt. You bastard, bastard. I'm going to tell Imperial Grandfather and Imperial Grandmother. You bastard angered my mother to death, and now you want to strangle my aunt to death. Quickly let go of me, let go." Prince Kong kicked his son away, and the hatred in his heart grew stronger. Even his own son saw him as an enemy. The little heir got up and pounced over, grabbing Prince Kong and fiercely biting him. He was so fierce that he was determined to bite off a piece of flesh from Prince Kong. Prince Kong was in so much pain that he let go and slapped his son. The little heir glared fiercely at him like a wolf cub, even though his face quickly swelled up and his ears hurt and buzzed. Prince Kang's secondary consort didn't care about herself, but she was still very concerned about her sister's child. Before she could catch her breath, she pounced over to check on the child's condition. Are you okay? Your Highness, Yor is your legitimate eldest son, and he's not even 8 years old. How could you be so ruthless? You slut, you still have the nerve to say that. You taught this prince's son to dare to hit his own lord father. What are your intentions? Prince Kang's secondary consort glared fiercely at him, and her heart was also filled with hatred, but she didn't say anything. Aunt, my ears hurt, it hurts. Only then did tears fall down. The secondary consort's expression changed. Someone quickly call the estate doctor. Prince Kang's expression also changed, but he didn't say anything and let the secondary consort take his son away, but his face was still gloomy. Then, he looked at the motionless curtain, and he couldn't help but feel angry. He quickly stepped forward and pulled the curtain open, and the situation inside made his pupils shrink. He saw that the boy had been moved. The boy who was taught to be a child molester had his eyes wide open, and he was lying in a pool of blood. A large area from his chest to his neck seemed to have turned into minced meat, and the enchanting girl's eyes looked like she had lost her soul. She was still holding a hairpin, mechanically inserting it again and again. Anyone who saw this scene would feel that something was wrong. Rao, he's already dead. Don't insert it again. The enchanting girl acted like she didn't hear anything. Inserting it again and again, Prince Kong grabbed her hand. That's enough, Rao. Look at me, look at me. The enchanting girl's eyes gradually focused, and then she slowly realized her current situation. She was stunned for a moment, and then she retreated with a cry of alarm. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. I didn't do it on purpose. Looking at it, it was too much stimulation, and her entire person collapsed. Prince Kong reached out and hugged her. Rao, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. This prince is here. This prince is here. The enchanting girl sobered up a bit this time. Your Highness, I didn't do it on purpose. You have to believe me. You have to believe me. It's okay. It's just a lowly slave. If it's killed, then it's killed. Don't mind it. Prince Kong comforted her while holding her up, preparing to send her back. The enchanting girl was still crying, and she kept trembling in Prince Kang's arms, looking exceptionally pitiful. It's just that, in a place where everyone couldn't see, the enchanting girl was like a malicious spirit demanding life. She probably never thought that she would fall so hard in this kind of situation. Jin Qian Wangfei, the tip of her tongue brushed against the gap between her teeth, and she tasted a trace of blood. https://www.bicken.com/11/11807/6654099 HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Registration is not required. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book: www.bicken.com. Biku Pavilion mobile reading website, bicken.com. Chapter 379. The doctor was still treating Imperial Prince Kang's little heir. Imperial Prince Kang's concubine was sitting on the side, her face expressionless. Only her eyes were getting colder and colder. Her hands hidden and her sleeves were clenched into her palms, leaving a deep imprint. If this child was really deaf, then she couldn't absolve herself from the blame. This child could be considered the emperor's eldest grandson. Because of his intelligence and delicate appearance, even Emperor Lucheng valued him, not to mention the empress. To a certain extent, she valued him more than Imperial Prince Kong. If he became disabled, the consequences were unimaginable. In her opinion, being punished was one thing, but the main thing was guilt. Such a young child. When the doctor came out with the results, she knew from his expression that it wouldn't be good. Imperial Prince Kang's concubine closed her eyes. Just say it. Imperial concubine, please forgive this lowly one. This lowly one is incompetent. He was trembling. To a certain extent, being a consecrator in a large family was a good job. However, everything had two sides. Just like now, if something happened to his master, he could lose his life if he couldn't do anything about it. You may leave. Someone come, call the imperial physicians. Call as many as you can. It must be said that this was definitely not a small matter. She believed that the palace would soon be alarmed. Although Imperial Prince Kong was the one who did it, Jingwan, who caused Imperial Prince Kong to fly into a rage, couldn't escape responsibility. After all, anyone could vent their anger. It was also possible for people to lose control when they were extremely sad and painful. However, the person who called the imperial physicians hurriedly left Imperial Prince Kang's residence. Not long after, Li Hongyuan received the news, and the carriage from Imperial Prince Jin's residence slowly arrived at the prince's residence. You might be deaf? Li Hongyuan was a little surprised, but his expression didn't change at all, as if it wasn't a big matter. On the other hand, Jingwan couldn't help but frown and clenched the handkerchief in her hand. Li Hongyuan reached out to hold Jingwan's hand. Don't worry, I'll take care of everything. Jingwan shook her head. I'm not afraid of being implicated, but I feel that Imperial Prince Kong is really, even a vicious tiger wouldn't eat its cubs. How could he be so ruthless? Yuan, you heard it too. He was coaxed by a concubine, and didn't even care about the child. Children are treasures bestowed by the heavens. If you don't cherish them, this kind of person should die without descendants. Jingwan's expression was exceptionally cold at the end of her speech. Li Hongyuan gently stroked Jingwan's back. Li Hongyi is naturally irritable and impulsive. He does things without thinking. He often loses his mind over small matters. Even if the Empress and others help him deal with the aftermath, he often leaves behind traces. In this prince's opinion, if it wasn't for the Empress's protection, he would have been gnawed to pieces in the palace. Speaking of which, he is particularly confident in himself. It's just that he relies on his identity as the eldest son of the D family and believes that the throne is naturally his. Cut off one of his wings, and then anyone can crush him to death. What is Ah Yuan going to do? Jingwan looked at Li Hongyuan, knowing that she had some plans. Just make the Empress sick for a while, Li Hongyuan said lightly. Jingwan was horrified. Looking at Li Hongyuan, her eyes were filled with disbelief. This man's skill was so great that he could control the harem in his hands? It must be known that the harem was balanced, and there was not only one family that was dominant. Moreover, those women were not to be trifled with. You don't have a biological mother, but your adoptive mother and your own son. If you can control the harem, then what else can the others do? If they want to get rid of Lu Qingdi, whether alive or dead, it's a very simple matter. At this moment, Jingwan's expression was written all over her face. Li Hongyuan laughed. It's not that exaggerated. If it really reached that level, all of this would have been over long ago. It's just that some arrangements can be used once, but it can't be used a second time. Jingwan nodded. So that's how it is. Since that's the case, it must be a very secret arrangement. It's only used at the critical moment. There's no need to waste it now. When is it critical? And when is it a waste? There's no absolute definition of this. Wan, don't think that it's because of you that your husband is taking action. You think that this is a waste of opportunity. In fact, whether it's me or those brothers, what we do is essentially the same. We either strengthen ourselves or weaken others. It's only a matter of time to use some secret pawns now. It's enough as long as we can achieve our goal. Perhaps now is the best time. Besides, compared to you, any secret and critical arrangement of the emperor doesn't matter. It can be used or abandoned. Although Jingwan faintly gave Li Hongyuan a supercilious look, her slightly red cheeks and ears still revealed her true feelings. Li Hongyuan reached out and pulled her into his arms. His little sweetheart was still so thin-skinned. He was clearly telling the truth, and absolutely didn't mean to say any sweet words deliberately. Every time, she would feel embarrassed. Why did she find someone to love her so much? If it were him, Wan would say pleasant words all day long, and he would also accept them without batting an eyelid. They quietly rubbed each other's ears for a while before they got down from the carriage. Since you think it's not a problem to do this now, I won't say anything more. But if the secret pawn is used, will it be dangerous? As long as it's a secret pawn, from the beginning, they should be aware that they will be executed after being discovered. Wan, you should also understand this. Jingwan was silent. Indeed, no matter what kind of background, spies, moles, and secret pawns were all extremely dangerous things. We should take care of their families more. At least, if they were to sacrifice their lives, they should have no worries. Li Hongyuan sighed softly, but he didn't say anything. He was a black-hearted person from head to toe. He didn't care about human lives at all. In fact, his brothers and many superiors were all like this. As long as they could achieve their goal, a few people dying was nothing at all. They wouldn't even frown. However, this matter wasn't so serious this time. Don't worry, no one will die. The reason why we didn't use it a second time is to avoid being discovered. After all, this person is a little special. Under normal circumstances, her life won't be sacrificed. Jingwan was slightly surprised. Who else in the palace would not be willing to sacrifice their lives for her? Lu Qingdi didn't need to mention. If he wanted to do something to the Empress, it wouldn't be so troublesome. Moreover, if this person could order the Emperor around, he wouldn't need to worry about anything. Then there was Noble Consort Su. Noble Consort Su had such ability, she would definitely use it to help her own son. Other than these two people, who else? According to Jingwan, even if it was these two people, when necessary, this person would still be willing to sacrifice them. Then who was so capable? Jingwan's eyes were filled with curiosity. Li Hongyuan didn't hide it from her. Qin Shufei. To be honest, this answer, Jingwan really didn't expect. Qin Shufei, that person, how to put it, had a relatively low presence. Although she wasn't as favored as noble consort Su, she was better than the empress. She didn't have any enemies in the palace, but no one dared to touch her. Although she didn't have any children, the Gong prince could be considered half an adopted son. Her maternal family also supported the Gong prince on the surface. However, the struggle for the throne didn't seem to affect her at all. No matter how you looked at it, she seemed to be a relatively special existence in the harem. Compared to the empress and noble consort Su, she was more relaxed and carefree. Compared to the other concubines, her position was more stable. After coming back this time, I should have paid a visit to noble consort Su, but because of an accident, I couldn't go. I have to find a time to pay a visit. At the same time, she wanted to see if there was anything special about this Qin Shufei. I'll go after this matter. In fact, it doesn't matter. Wan, you don't have to worry about it. Qin Shufei won't have any grudges. In fact, I want to know more. Yuan. What's the relationship between you and noble consort Su? No matter how you look at it, you two shouldn't be related at all, but she can be used by you. If you say there's nothing between you two, no one would believe it. Jingwan looked at him, her face almost saying still not telling the truth. How should I put it? In fact, it was Qin Shufei who took the initiative to find this prince before this prince left the palace. The reason for this is unknown. In the beginning, Qin Tianming was already in the palm of my hand. Because my methods were more violent, generally speaking, no one would be happy. I didn't care. I wasn't cultivating him as a confidant. As long as I achieved my goal, it was fine. It was just that when I didn't know, Qin Shufei mediated between us. After that, Qin Tianming's mood became better. Even if he was tortured by me, he didn't complain. Qin Shufei is a very smart person. I suspect that the reason Qin Tianming was able to sit in the position of left commander-in-chief was because of her. Otherwise, Qin Tianming would not have told Qin Shufei such a big thing. In the imperial harem, if Qin Shufei wants to compete with Empress Sun and noble consort Su, it's more than enough for her to stand on three sides. She might even have the upper hand. If she was willing to help Old Fourth definitely wouldn't be like this now. So Yuan doesn't know much about Qin Shufei. It's only based on the surface. To a certain extent, she's the one who hides the deepest? It's not a problem to say that. Then is she reliable? Based on her understanding of Li Hongyuan, if he didn't know very well, or had something that could be used against him, he wouldn't easily use her. It doesn't matter. Regardless of whether Qin Shufei is reliable or not, it has nothing to do with me. If she really has any bad intentions, Wan, you have to believe that before she does anything, I will let her know the consequences of boarding this prince's ship and going against this prince. Speaking of which, it had been many years. Although Li Hongyuan had never trusted Qin Shufei had never deliberately done anything. It was just that Li Hongyuan occasionally needed her to cover up. Qin Shufei was always watertight. Although he didn't completely trust her, she was quite useful. Jingwan was relieved. After all, if Qin Shufei really hid it well, then it would be good if she didn't have any bad intentions. Once she had bad intentions, she would be quite dangerous. Therefore, she had to be on guard. Speaking of which, under normal circumstances, unrelated people wouldn't help others for no reason, especially this kind of matter that concerns their lives. Before you left the palace, you shouldn't have shown any signs. Even the Gong Prince has a higher chance of winning than you, so there's no reason for him to bet on you. Could it be that Qin Shufei actually has a request, and only you can achieve it? So she came to you? Who knows? In fact, in Li Hongyuan's impression, the Qin Shufei of his previous life was basically the same as in this life. The only difference was that in his previous life, he didn't have any interactions with Qin Shufei. When the dust finally settled, because she didn't participate in the struggle for the throne, and because of her relationship with Qin Tianming, Li Hongyuan didn't touch her. After ascending the throne, she was the only grand imperial concubine, and had been raised in the palace. It could be said that she was the woman with the highest status in the palace. However, she didn't interfere in the palace's affairs at all, living in seclusion. She was simply an invisible person. If she didn't appear at important palace banquets, outsiders wouldn't even know of her existence. Occasionally, Li Hongyuan would wonder if Qin Shufei was the same as him, having a second chance in life. After a long time, it didn't seem to be the case. If she really had foresight, why didn't she do anything? However, Li Hongyuan didn't completely deny his guess. If she really was the same as him, then she should also know about his situation. After all, the changes he made could be said to be earth-shattering. She was just a harem woman. There was no need for her to do anything. As long as she got in touch with him, she would be the biggest winner in the end. All of this was based on speculation. Maybe there were other reasons. Li Hongyuan wasn't interested in getting to the bottom of it. As long as it didn't interfere with him, then it didn't matter what Qin Shufei's situation was. It's just that this statement seems a bit far-fetched. Don't think so much. As long as it doesn't interfere, who cares? You're right. Originally, I had a backup plan for Imperial Prince Kong, but now it doesn't seem too good to continue. Gong Jiu's identity changed from being hidden to being revealed. Back then, we made detailed arrangements, so there's no problem with his identity. Later on, you can send people to Imperial Prince Kang's residence. Gong Jiu's medical skills are there for all to see. He's better than many of the imperial physicians. You can show your attitude enough. And even if you continue to do something to Li Hongyi, you won't get involved with Yu'er. So whatever you want to do, you can do it freely. It's one thing to give face, but I'm afraid that Imperial Prince Kong won't accept it no matter what. The pitiful one will only be the child. Li Hongyuan wanted to say. So what if the enemy's child died? Forget it. If I really said this, Wanwan would feel terrible. Yu'er and his father weren't of the same mind, so it's fine to keep him. If he becomes a scourge in the future, then just get rid of him. I'll enter the palace and directly look for Imperial Father. After hearing Li Hongyuan's words, Jingwan ordered people to pay close attention to the situation in Imperial Prince Kang's residence. If possible, she wanted to send Gong Jiu to have a look as soon as possible. In her previous life, there had been cases where people were slapped until they became deaf. If it was a perforated eardrum, then it was likely that even Gong Jiu would be helpless. If it was a damaged ear nerve, then it should be better, and there might be a way. No matter what kind of situation it was, it should be treated as soon as possible. Even if people thought that she had a guilty conscience, she wouldn't hesitate. Sure enough, after the people in Imperial Prince Kang's residence invited an imperial physician, it didn't take long for the palace to know. Not to mention how furious Emperor Le Qingdi and the Empress were. They immediately sent their trusted subordinates out of the palace to Imperial Prince Kang's residence to inquire about the specific situation. A group of people arrived one after another, and the courtyard of Imperial Prince Kang's heir was filled with people. But Imperial Prince Kong was nowhere to be seen, which was hard to believe. They asked about the cause of Yu'er's injury. Without a doubt, Jingwan's havoc in Imperial Prince Kang's residence was also known. However, because the person who narrated this matter was Imperial Prince Kang's side consort subordinate, he didn't deliberately distort black and white, nor did he use the art of language. He only explained the cause and effect clearly. If they really wanted to pursue the matter, Jingwan really didn't have any responsibility. After all, the young heir was beaten because of his aunt. The people from the palace naturally didn't dare to comment, and only asked about Imperial Prince Kang's current whereabouts. Imperial Prince Kang's side consort sneered. He's probably hugging his frightened beloved concubine and comforting her. Right at this moment, a maidservant came in. Seeing so many people present, she became timid for a moment. Why have you been gone for so long? Where is His Highness? Imperial Prince Kang's side consort asked coldly. The maidservant stammered, and there was an indescribable shame on her face. When she saw her master's cold and hard expression, she spoke in a trembling voice. This servant didn't see His Highness. The maidservant in the concubine's courtyard stopped this servant from entering, and said that His Highness was handling important matters, and had no time to see this servant. This servant said that the young heir's condition wasn't very good. That maidservant sneered at this servant, saying that master is a side consort after all. using the young heir as a raft to fight for favor. This servant is too shameless. Not only were there people from the palace present, but there was also a group of imperial physicians. When they heard this, they wished that they were deaf and didn't hear anything. In fact, they all heard it, so they looked down. However, in their hearts, this imperial Prince Kong was indeed unreliable and completely useless. This kind of person, it had to be said that when people court death, they couldn't be stopped. Based on Imperial Prince Kang's current actions, even if someone wanted to lessen his crime, they would be powerless. After all, if they wanted to go against their heart and say a few good words about him, no matter how thick-skinned a person was, they wouldn't be able to say it. However, Imperial Prince Kang's side consort had an as expected expression. How is Yuji's situation? Please ask the Darren to come up with a plan. If one listened carefully, they would find that her voice was actually a bit hoarse. She was trying her best to maintain normal, and the strangulation marks on her neck were becoming more and more obvious. Side consort Nyang. This official can only do his best, and the final result. Imperial Prince Kang's side consort clenched her handkerchief. Her unfinished words were very clear, asking the Darren to do his best. As it should be, the people in the palace had to go back to report, and invited the imperial physician to go with them. The situation of the legitimate emperor's eldest grandson still required him to personally report to the emperor. Master, outside the Fu, Imperial Prince Jin's personal attendant brought a man. It is said that he is a Fu doctor brought back from Jiangnan. According to him, Imperial Prince Jin personally praised his medical skills. Imperial Prince Jin's side consort learned that little Shitzi was injured, but didn't know the specific situation. She said that it wasn't good to go and cause trouble now, so she sent the Fu doctor over to take a look. First, she wanted to understand the situation, and second, she wanted to see if she could do anything. Regardless of whether the people present thought that Imperial Prince Jin's side consort sent people to inquire about information, or was sincerely concerned about little Shitzi, Imperial Prince Kang's side consort didn't say anything and let people invite the person in. Thus, the people who were about to leave stayed for the time being. A person who could be praised by Imperial Prince Jin must have some skills. However, when they saw the person, they couldn't help but be suspicious. After all, he looked a bit too young. Gongjiu didn't care. After greeting Imperial Prince Kang's side consort and obtaining permission, he carefully examined little Shitzi and finally concluded, "It can be treated, it can be healed." There wasn't a word of superfluous words. Compared to the imperial physicians who talked about a minor illness as a major illness, they talked about a major illness as a terminal illness. Are these words true? Imperial Prince Kang's side consort, who didn't have a good expression, suddenly stood up. She finally showed a bit of joy, but she was also a bit worried, afraid that she heard wrong. "You, this young man, have a big tone." The imperial physicians were unhappy. The result of their diagnosis was that little Shitzi wasn't completely deaf. This was already the best result. A young man dared to be so insolent. Gongjiu didn't pay attention to them at all. He only clasped his hands in front of Imperial Prince Kang's side consort. This small one doesn't dare to speak rashly when it concerns little Shitzi. The imperial physicians shut their mouths. Indeed, this kind of thing, no one dared to carelessly boast. Then we will have to trouble the physician. If you need any medicinal herbs, just say it. If the Fu doesn't have it, the palace will definitely have it. Wang Fei sent the small one here with this intention. Since the small one can do it, this small one will definitely do his best. Gong Jiu wrote the prescription and then performed acupuncture. During the process of his acupuncture, the other imperial physicians all picked up the prescription and looked at it. It must be said that these people's medical skills weren't bad. At a glance, it seemed that there was a lot of potential. Looking at Gong Jiu again, there was some change in their expressions. It must be said that they weren't people who were jealous of ability, although it was indeed a bit shameful to be compared to a young man. Now was not the time to care about this. One after another, they went to see Gong Jiu perform the acupuncture, suspecting that they were secretly learning from him. Seeing that Gongjiu ignored them, they just stood there motionless. Imperial Prince Kang's side consort saw the attitude of the imperial physicians, and her heart became more relieved. She hurriedly called for someone to get the medicine. As for the imperial physicians, the more they looked, the more fearful they were. This young man was really daring to give birth to needles. If it were them, even if they knew that it could be treated like this, they would not dare to do it. Should it be said that they were really old, and had stayed in the imperial hospital for too long, that they were overcautious in everything? Those who should return to the palace still returned to the palace, but for the time being, they didn't bring along the imperial physicians. As for what they would say when they returned, in front of their masters, they would naturally speak the truth. They didn't dare to be biased, and even more didn't dare to add oil to vinegar or delete anything. Mu Gonggong also walked around, and then returned to Jin Qin Wangfu. Jingwan had also been waiting for the news. When she learned that Imperial Prince Kang's heir could recover, she was greatly relieved. As for Imperial Prince Kang's actions, she really didn't know what to say. It seems that even the heavens are standing on Wan Wan's side. It was Li Hongyi who sought death. Li Hongyuan's tone was indifferent. Li Hongyuan's heart was thinking more about that woman Yao Rao. Li Hongyi would most likely push all the blame onto her head, saying that it was her who seduced Li Hongyi to commit adultery in broad daylight, disregarding the imperial grandson, whether it was for the sake of face or something else. In this case, Yara would most likely be executed. If that woman were to fall like this, it would really be too unjust. But as far as Li Hongyuan knew, he feared that it wouldn't be that easy. Speaking of which, Yara was indeed unlucky. Not only was she unknowingly tricked by Jingwan, she only thought of retrieving Imperial Prince Kang's favor and neglected other things. The result was that she was even more unlucky. https://www.yanguiwaiwo.com/11/11807/66540101. HTML chapter error. Click here to report. Exempt from registration. We will deal with it as soon as possible. After reporting, please wait patiently and refresh the page. Please remember the domain name of this book, www.yanguiwaiwo.com. Bikago mobile reading website, yanguiwaiwo.com. You're tuning in to the Earbook Haven YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.